Well, there goes the Daverhood. Good morning, everybody, and welcome on this Saturday, the first Saturday of July, to a brand new, exciting, and thrilling edition of the Dave's Gone By Facebookio Podcastio Programmio of the stream with me, Dave Lefkowitz, and going to be a fabulous show. In fact, I'll tell you about it as soon as I play our intro theme, which is, as always, Tropical Hot Dog Night, even though it's the morning, it's 9 a.m. Eastern Time, but we started the show when it was evening, so just like with everything else in this program, go with it.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. There goes the Daverhood. And there was much rejoicing.
Didn't your meds kick in yet?
Yeah, David Lefkowitz here. He's a Long Island arts guy. He's got his own radio show.
I want you all to really enjoy a wonderful program done by a fine artist.
A glorious thing of unparalleled beauty.
Dave's Gone By. Dave is one of my very favorite broadcasters, so keep on listening to Mr. Dave.
Tropical hot dog night. Like two flamingos in a fruit fight.
Well, there goes the Daverhood, as I said, and welcome on this Saturday, July 6, 2019, to the 703rd episode of Dave's Gone By. Excuse me, with me, Dave Lefkowitz. Delighted to be here as always. It's a mix of humor and talk and music and culture and interviews. We have a biggie today, plus all the crazy, as I like to call it, the usual unusuals that we do every Saturday from 9 until about noon or thereabouts Eastern Time in what we call the Daverhood. So, all right, let me tell you what will be on the show, then I'm going to yap a little bit, then we'll get to all the cool stuff that's actually on the show. For example, we're going to have our Colorado Limerick of the Damned. We usually do that kind of late in the program, but since my wife and I have been living in Colorado for about a decade, I decided for no particular reason, and certainly no good reason, at one point to write a couple of little limericks, 5-line poems about various towns and cities and municipalities in Colorado. And we've been doing one a week for the past couple of months, and we're continuing to do it. But I noticed there was a town that I left out because I was only going to do a couple of them. I was going to do 1 or 2 or 5 or something, and they just kept building. I couldn't stop. It became an addictive thing to try and think of funny little poems or dirty or sick little poems about all these different places in Colorado. And I realized that I left out Cheraw. It's either Cheraw or Cheraw, Cheraw. So this week, I wrote a brand new one, because I've got a bunch of these that I wrote months ago that we're getting through the alphabet on. But no, it is a new, truly new Colorado Limerick of the Damned devoted to the town of Cheraw, Colorado, and that'll be coming up later on Dave's Gone By. We will also go inside Broadway for news of the Rialto, which is just a look at big breaking Broadway news. I haven't seen anything this week to review, so I'll just be talking about all the stuff that's going on. And it's unfortunately, it's a lot of bad news this week, mostly, but stuff that's going to be closing and kind of opening up the Broadway theaters for new stuff to come in the fall. And also, we have to say goodbye to a couple of people. More on that anon. But we've got Inside Broadway. Somebody just gave me a thumbs up for people dying. Yeah! But anyway, thank you, Tony. And thank you. Someone named Philip is watching. I wonder whoever you are, Philip, thank you so much for tuning in. And Anthony, my gosh, Anthony from the publishing house that won't publish my books. And my Auntie Esther and AP. I don't know who that is, but welcome, AP. And of course, Fred from Friendy, whom we saw in New York just a week ago. So that's kind of cool. And other people are tuning in. I just can't see who. But welcome to all of you. So Inside Broadway and our Colorado Limerick of the Damned and our quiz that we just started 2 weeks ago. I wanted to add some new ideas to the program. I wanted to Yeah, because I didn't want to get into a rut. I love what I do every week, and I love the segments that I do. If I didn't, I wouldn't do them. But I thought, you know what, sometimes it's nice to change things up. So we've been doing a quiz called Today, Yesterday. Today, Yesterday. And what we do is we take that date in history and ask a bunch of questions about it and test your trivial knowledge. So today, the quiz questions will be about July 6th, since it is July 6th, 2019. So that's a lot of fun. Also, a whole lot of fun that I do with my darling and adorable wife, Joyce, is our Greeley Crimes and Old Times segment. This is based on a couple of columns that are in our newspaper back home in Greeley, Colorado, the Greeley Tribune, where they collect, first of all, things, phone calls that come into the Greeley Police Dispatch from people who really, really need more help than they think they know. Unfortunately, the Trib has fallen down on the job for almost a month now and hasn't added any new Greeley cop log items. This disturbs me. This offends me. I may, in fact, call the Trib now publishes 4 times a week hard copy instead of 7. I'm thinking if they don't bring that back, the Trib should go down to maybe once a week and turn into a magazine, because that is just awful and disgusting and says terrible things about where publishing is going. Oh, more of a Madanon. You heard about Mad Magazine? Mad Magazine. We'll get to it. So, but hey, I'm like Wendy Williams, you know, just sit down. We're here for a while. But yeah, Coplog, not going to be on today. But Greeley Old Times, that they're still doing. Our friend of the Daverhood, Mike Peters, he goes into the newspapers from 100 years ago and finds the strangest, oddest, most cute, nostalgic, funniest things that they were writing in the papers back in 1919. And he plucks out the best ones, and every week he does a column called 100 Years Ago in the Trib. We mix that together, and we call it Greeley Crimes and Old Times. And we're going to have that on the program today as well. And what else? What else? And like, how can I forget the most important thing, aside from all of you folks kindly tuning in to watch and listen to the show, but our special guest in the Daverhood. Now, this, I don't think there's any show in the history of Broadway or off-Broadway that has had 3 alumni. Notice how red I turn when I hold up my hand. Well, that has had 3 alumni on Dave's Gone By. Because we've had 2. We've had Avenue Q, which is a classic, wonderful, modern musical. And we've had Stephanie D'Abruzzo, and very recently we had, help me out, and Harada. So we've had 2 alumni of Avenue Q on this program. Very proud of that. We've also had, up until now, 2 alumni of the original off-Broadway, which moved to Broadway cast of Rent, one of the iconic musicals of the past 30, 40 years, Jonathan Larson's Rent, right? Well, we've had in the Daverhood, Daphne Rubin Vega. We've had in the Daverhood, Wilson Germain Heredia, okay? 2 alumnuses. And to be honest, for a magazine, I've interviewed Idina Menzel, but that doesn't count. She hasn't been on the show yet. But today, on Dave's Gone By, we'll be interviewing the lead actor, the guy who played Roger of the original Rent, Adam Pascal. He's alive, he's well, he still looks great. I wish I looked like Adam, but I don't. But he looks like Adam Pascal, and he sings still like Adam Pascal, and he's doing his concertizing acoustically all across the New York region this month. As a matter of fact, let's see, you can find him at Malloy College on July 12th doing his acoustic show called So Far. So it's an aggregate of his career. So he'll be singing songs from the shows he's been in, like Chicago. He was a replacement. He's not the Amos, he's the other guy. He's Billy Flynn in Chicago. He also originated the lead role in the Elton John musical on Broadway, Aida. Yeah, right. He's been in Pretty Woman on Broadway, which is quite recent. So Adam Pascal, he's doing his career retrospective. It's called So Far. It's going to be at Malloy College on July 12th. He's going to be at the John Engerman Theater in Northport, Long Island. That is on July 15th. And most importantly, well, they're all actually important depending on where you live when you're listening to this program. But on July 16th, July 18th, he will be at the Green Room 42 on West 42nd Street in Manhattan, doing 2 shows at 7 and 9:30. So Adam Pascal, he wants to talk about it, right? He wants to talk about his career. He wants to talk about how he's doing. And Adam Pascal in the Daverhood talking, alas, not to me. I'm just the producer of this show. I just write some crap and deliver it on camera. But no, he'll be talking to the one, the only, the Jewish Rabbi Sal Solomon will be here. Yeah, because we get Rabbi Sal when he isn't doing his rabbinical reflections. He interviews a lot of our guests, and he has a lot of fun. And I do believe Adam Pascal is in fact Jewish. So he actually have something to talk about with Rabbi Sal Solomon later in the broadcast, probably about an hour and a half from now. I get people, tuning in and complaining. It's like, well, we heard so-and-so is going to be on the program, and we're listening and we're hearing you yak on. And not that you aren't incredibly talented and funny and brilliant, but what the hell? We're tuned in for so-and-so. Where are they? And I'm telling you, it's a 2.5, 3 hour broadcast. They're coming. We promise. They're here. I mean, they're here right now. But Adam Pascal will be in the Daverhood with Rabbi Sal Solomon in a while. You'll just have to keep watching and tuning in and listening to find out when. And, of course, you can also hear the archives if you miss it live at davesgoneby.com. Remember, that's Dave like my name, DAVES, goneby.com. So that's what's happening on the program. If there is time, I'm not sure there will be, but I might even bring back a segment I haven't done, I don't think, since we left Colorado, called Dave's Big Dick Dictionary, where my wife thumbs at random through a Webster's or any major dictionary, points her finger at random at a word, and I'm going to expound upon it and tell some sort of story about it from my life. I loved doing that, got a little tired of it, haven't done it in a long time. If there's time, I'll do it again today. By the way, welcome again to Tony, David, Paul, David from my high school, 2 Davids, or 3, if I'm kind of watching myself as well. So we are triangulating Davids right now. It's like that show Charmed on TV. If all the Davids get their power, this is scissoring. We're not doing that. But if we get our powers together, who knows the heights that this show can reach. And by the way, speaking of high school, welcome also to Claudia from my high school and to Scott as well. Really great to see all of you in the Daverhood live here on this Saturday, July 6th. So before I get to all of that, and Joyce, you haven't heard her or watched her walking around or handing me my coffee and stuff, it's because she's at the gym, because it's more important for her to stay in beautiful physical shape for the first part of the show. But she will be joining me, I promise. And we'll talk about a bunch of stuff and do our Greeley Crimes of Old Times together and the quiz also, which gives me a little bit of time to do one other thing that I want to open the show with. Lost a couple of people this week, one of whom we'll talk about during the Inside Broadway segment. A Broadway gossip columnist, theater critic, and eventually evolved into a travel writer, a guy who wrote a lot about really fancy hotels all over Europe, a fellow named Ward Morehouse III, who is the son of Ward Morehouse. Now, both of them were newspaper people, ink in their blood, dyed-in-the-wool entertainment columnists. So in Lost Ward, I'll talk a little bit about him. I knew him personally. I can't say that we're close friends, but he's been on the show, and kind of sad that we lost him. But the real kick in the teeth this week was losing someone who really did a lot more for me than I ever did for him. Oh, I'm getting some thumbs up for Ward Morehouse. Thank you so much, whoever's doing that. But this is the big one. A fella that I've known well since really I started in this field of being a theater critic and an arts journalist. Knew his name even before then because I would tune into WINS radio and hear his theater reviews before I started really going to the theater. And I was like, oh, Richmond Shepard with a theater review. Richmond Shepard. Then I started going to the theater and seeing shows off Broadway, and suddenly there was a Richmond Shepard theater. Who the hell is this Richmond Shepard? Who's this guy? Man. And then, as all of us do, because it's a very tight-knit business, this theater critic thing, or at least it used to be, before every person who has a theater ticket and a computer became a theater critic on Yelp or ShowScore. But he started going to the theater. He was a member of the Outer Critics Circle, and I believe the Drama Desk as well, as I became back in the late 1980s. And we started moving in the same circles, him living right in Midtown Manhattan. And the typical thing of saying hi when you're at the theater, knowing friends of friends, and getting a group together and saying, so what have you seen the last 2 weeks? Well, it's been good. What should I avoid? And doing that. And it became a friendship in a way. I mean, the man was, about 35 years older than I am. But the cool thing about Richmond Shepard, one of the many cool things, is he always looked about 15 to 20 years younger than the way he presented. Helped that he was an actor and a mime. I know, don't turn up your, I know, mimes, right? Yeah, he was a mime, and he was an old school mime. He wasn't like Billy the Mime or these new people, or what's their names, Bill Irwin and David Shiner. He studied, he knew, he was friends with Marcel Marceau. As a matter of fact, the first or second time we had Richmond Shepard on this program, it was to talk about the death of his acquaintance friend, Marcel Marceau, what he learned from him, Marcel's shortcomings in terms of being a mime and stuff. So Shepard would do the whiteface and the paint and the lips, and wrote books about it, has been teaching mime in Ireland and across the world, as well as weekly, even in New York, for decades. I think he just stopped teaching a year ago when he was 89 years old, right? So it also forced him to always be in good shape. He was limber. He always knew how to move. He had tremendous grace, which made him quite popular with the ladies. He was a good-looking guy for many, many years. So he would be, people would see him, they think he was 40 years old. He was already in his 60s. This is true. And he was married, I think he was married a couple of times. I know he was married and divorced once, but he always was after the ladies, and the ladies were after him. So hats off, if nothing else. But there's so many other reasons to take our hats off. And if you know Richmond Shepard, you know he always wore that really cool, funky 1970s like urban black person hat. Don't know why he wore that, but there's the most famous picture of him has him in a hat like that. But he was not, quote unquote, just a mime, not just an actor, not just a director, although he directed a ton, not just a theater critic, which he was doing for a long time. It got him into the theater. And was he Frank Rich? Was he John Simon? No. But could he pinpoint whether a show was worth your while or not in just a couple of sentences? You bet he could. And he'd be, I mean, we disagree on things, but he would be right about it too and be able to defend it. And he'd always say, he'd have these little catchphrases that he would use. He'd say, like, this was a fun show. I like this show. You have to go to this cabaret thing. And he would end his review a lot of times, and if you don't like it, I'll give you $1. That was his Hamish, friendly sort of way of telling you, look, I really liked it. I don't see why your average person would not like this show. If you don't like it, I'll give you $1. And a lot of times when I was editing his work, because he would be writing for either This Month on Stage magazine, which I was publishing at that point, or what eventually morphed into Performing Arts Insider and Total Theater, I'd snip that out half the time. I'd be like, that doesn't really belong in a serious review. But sometimes I'd leave it in, right? Because that was Richmond. That was him. He was that way. And let me tell you a directing story. Because he had rows of theaters, right? His own mini theater row in Los Angeles for many years, including a Richmond Shepard Theater in LA. Closed that up, was in New York, moved here, and he had a theater on East 26th Street, over near where the Vineyard was, or it was the old Vineyard place, and he had something like that. A really run-down, but Hamish theater, off Broadway, 26th Street and like 2nd or Lexington Avenue. And I was looking for a place with the aforementioned Rabbi Saul to do our show, Shalom Dammit, An Evening with Rabbi Saul Saul, which I co-wrote with him. And I directed Rabbi Saul in the one-man show with music. And I'm working on this show, and I'm getting it down to the word, and I'm very, very proud of it. We get it up on that first night at the Richmond Shepard Theater. My other good friend, Richard Shore, is there, and he's playing the piano for us. He's our accompanist because it's a play with music. I'm doing it. We got people there. And when we get done, the show at that point was 2 hours and 10 minutes long, including a 10, 15-minute intermission, which I thought was perfect size. Tends not to be necessarily the perfect size for a one-person show unless you're famous. If you're only one person, you probably, but back then, who knew? I thought, 2 hours 10, 2 hours 15 minutes, perfect size. Everybody is hanging on my every word that I wrote because they're all pearls. They're all precious. I've gone through every sentence of this play 1,000 times. There's nothing more I can cut. It is what it is. And the ones will laugh at some points and maybe not laugh so much at other points, but they'll love us. And they'll give Rabbi Saul a standing ovation at the end and run out into the streets and say, well, Hamilton wasn't open at that point, but I was like, close Hamilton now, put this in that. That's what goes through your head in the dream stage of putting together any kind of production, any kind of show. So we get through the show, and Richard, the accompanist, the musical director, and I look at each other, and we know that certain parts worked, but overall we had a flop. Overall, audiences lost interest, they got a little tired, they didn't like certain portions of the thing, it was too much, and we were in trouble. Okay, I mean, we had a run to do, and my wife remembers that I got off the stage that night, called her because I think she was teaching, she couldn't be in New York at that point, and just told her I'm just going to go home. I'm going to go back to Colorado. It was a nice idea. It flopped. They hate it. They hate me. I've got no talent. Just the hell with this. I hate theater. I'm going to be the accountant I should have been 35 years ago, even though I'm not great at math. But I also told her what happened 5 minutes after the show, after everybody cleared out. And Richmond, who owned the theater, who was a friend, who came to the show to watch what the hell I was putting in his theater, sat me down with my friend Richard Shore, and he said, all right, here's what you have to do. This is do these things. First of all, you can't have this show be 2 hours and 15 minutes. Cut. What can I just cut? Fine, you don't need this scene. You don't need the Holocaust thing. You don't need that. Get it down at least under 2 hours. Here's what you also have to do. We weren't mic'd. I wasn't mic'd. And the piano was right at a certain side of the stage. And he said, the piano's drowning you out. I'm older. I have some hearing issues, Richmond Shed, but other people, your audience, think about this. It's a Jewish show off Broadway. Your audience is not hearing you when you sing. And that's real. I mean, I have that issue. Me, myself, Dave, have that issue going to Broadway shows now. And it's not just because I've lost a lot of hearing in this ear. It's just, I remember last week, a week and a half ago, I went to see Working, the musical, at City Center, part of their Encores Off series, where they brought back the musical based on the Studs Terkel book, Working, with songs by all these different artists. And I enjoyed parts of it, didn't enjoy all of it, but some songs were really good. But it was annoying when it wasn't a ballad and the whole band kicked in and the sound system would absolutely drown out whatever the singer was singing. Could not make out a lyric, right? And I was just sitting there like, I know I would enjoy the song if I heard what the guy was saying, right, or the woman was saying. But I also worried, maybe I should have brought my hearing aid. Maybe it's me. And then I go and I scope out and I read some of the reviews and some of the audience comments on the show. And I was far from the first person to say, oh yeah, City Center always has these problems on the first or even second or third nights of these encores things where they just don't get the mix of the vocals and the band right, and you can't hear people. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. I'm not Helen Keller yet, right? So I was doing the same exact thing 5 years ago when we were doing Shalom Dammit, or the rabbi was. And Richmond said, move the piano back, stand away from it. You know, if you're not going to use a mic, just the audience needs to hear you. Okay, right? Got to do that. Got to cut the show. Got to do that. Take out this. Stop moving around quite so much when you're landing your punchlines. And what was the other? And this is, he warned the rabbi. He said, you have a gravelly voice, that's your thing, right? That's how you sound like. But it's not necessarily that gravelly when you're in real life as opposed to on stage. You're overemphasizing the gravel in your throat. And if you're ever going to do this show 6 or 7 or 8 times a week, we did 9 times a week, you're going to kill your throat, right? You're going to get polyps, you're going to go hoarse after the 4th show. It will hurt you in the short term and in the long run. You don't need to be so gravelly with your voice. So make it more of your natural voice, Rabbi Saul. And I think he told us another couple of things. That we had to change one element of the set design, such as it was, and do this, and try it tomorrow. And I'm sitting there steaming because I think I've got a wonderful show and just nobody else appreciates it. I mean, I know parts are appreciated, but I just feel like the whole thing overall is like falling around on my shoulders. And I call my wife and I say, oh, it's a disaster. I want to go home. I'm flopping. It's terrible. Oh, and this Richmond is telling me this. Oh, it's so simple for him. He didn't spend the last 2 years working on this. He just comes in and says, do this. Yeah. She says, why don't you take his advice? Try it. Do it. So we get there. We do a rehearsal the next afternoon. We move things around. We move the piano. Rabbi Saul tries a more natural voice. Right? We cut a scene. I think we cut 2 different scenes from the show and got it. It was probably running about 2:20, and we got it to just over 2 hours, including intermission. And 1 or 2 other things we fiddled with. Wouldn't you know? Wouldn't you know? Second night, almost like night and day. Second night, wonderful applause, lots of laughs all the way through, smiles, and a show that I was ready to flush down a toilet with a Mogan David on it was suddenly like, holy crap, this is possibilities. We have a show here. We've got something that audiences like, and they're having fun with and enjoying, and they're listening. And they're getting the serious parts, and they're getting the not so serious parts, and they're laughing, and it's like, and that's the short part. When we ended up doing the show months later, back in Colorado, in front of what Rabbi Saul would call a Goyish audience, so we'd be like, would I get this? We ended up cutting it more. I did mostly with Rabbi Saul. I cut more stuff and made it a 1-act play about 85 minutes long instead of 90, right? And it worked like friggin' gangbusters then. In my head, the whole time, Richmond Shepard saying, cut, cut, cut. It can be wonderful, it can be great, but your audience has only so much stuff that they can take in at one time, leave them wanting more. Some of the oldest advice in the book, but it has to come from somebody who's been writing and directing and producing theater for 50 years. For you to sit up and take notice. And even then, I was resistant, being me, being an artiste, right? But everything he told me in those 5 minutes that he sat me and Richard down after our first preview was right? And so, you look at someone like that and you go, oh, the amount of respect that you have for that person's experience and background and teaching advice. He was also a teacher. He taught at St. John's for many years, just as an adjunct, just for poops and giggles. He was teaching screenwriting. He did a bit of that too. He was a playwright. He had a show off Broadway a few years back. It wasn't bad. It was he starred in it. It was, go figure, a romantic tale of a man who was in his 60s with a woman who was in her 30s, the man being played by Richmond Shepard, the woman being played by a very attractive actress in her 30s. gee, I wonder what the impetus for that play was all about. But that was Richmond, man. That was part of him too. What other Richmond stories do I have? Because that was just one item, one aspect of what Richmond was to me, aside from him being just an overall friend of our going to dinner or lunch occasionally. He came to my 40th birthday party, schlepped out to Long Island, where we had it literally in the house that I'm in right now, or it may have been the house I owned at that point. I think we were living in our house then. Sorry, yeah, no, it was not this house. It was half a mile down the road in the house that Joyce and I were living. And Joyce threw me a non-surprise 40th birthday party and invited friends and family. It wasn't a huge deal because I don't like parties in the first place, but I wanted to see certain people. I wanted people there for my 40th. It was a big deal to me to some extent, right? Because my 30th I spent at the Grand Canyon, or a week later I went to the Grand Canyon. So that was like a feeling, emotional, spiritual, what have you. So the 40th, I'm like, let's celebrate with friends, and Richmond came. First thing out of his mouth is, he's looking around, he's seeing that we have Coke and Sprite and seltzer and orange juice, if anybody wants, and some white wine. I think we had a bottle of red wine too, and some beer. And he's like, you don't have any hard liquor? And I started to get mad, because it's like you don't go into someone's home as a guest, even at a party, and say, well, you don't have this? You know, your toilet seats aren't pre-warmed? Who are you? Why am I even a guest? I'm like, Richmond, we got some alcohol if you want it, and we also have tons of soft drinks. Make do. You know, you want a bottle of scotch, bring your own. But after that, he was, of course, pure Richmond, the bon vivant, not the life of the party, but a very amiable fellow, kind of sizing up and hitting on whatever girls he could get near. You know, I think he sort of sidled up to my ex-girlfriend who was there at one point. And but yeah, he was Richmond, man. He was always that, and always opinionated, but generally with a chuckle about him, and a sense of one of the other stories I love to tell about Richmond is that he belonged to this, I don't know really what it is. It's a spirit, mind, body yoga thing called Subud. I don't think it's a real religion because he was Jewish through and through. I think he had cantors in his lineage, or rabbis in his lineage. But Subud, whatever, Google it. No friggin' clue. Don't really care. But he'd tell me about it, and he would center himself, and he'd be in touch with the universe, whatever. But he would always tell me, starting in his late 70s, that he knew when he was going to die. He knew that the day would, the universe was telling him that he would live to 83 years old. Right? This is when he was 80 or 78 or something like that. He's like, I'm not gonna have a bad physical life of it. It was just gonna happen that year. 83, I'll be gone. That's what the universe is telling me. But of course, it's sort of like those guys who go around with signs that say the world will end on Thursday, and then Friday comes. and I would see him, and he was then 84. And I was like, well, Richmond, what happened? I said, no, I got another message from the universe. I centered myself again. I said, no, it wasn't 80. Now I'm going to die at 86. Okay, fine. You good, okay. Not good. I will miss you. It'll be sad to lose you when a year and a half from now, but go on. And again, Richmond, at that point, he was starting to look older. He didn't look 50 when he was in his 80s, but he looked like a young 70s still in his 80s. Although he did suffer a stroke a few years ago, which he recovered from, right? Like 99% recovered from a stroke when you're in your early 80s, which again, I think that goes to his good living, his exercise, his praxis and practice, and being a mime and an actor and a teacher, that kind of person. Well, he made it to 86, and well into his 87th birthday. I'm saying, well, did you get another message from the universe? I didn't. We didn't really talk about this, but at some point, I assume he stopped really paying much attention to what the universe was telling him, and just especially since towards the last several months, he became fairly frail. It was one of these things where people really suddenly-ish do get significantly older. They lose the weight. My wife says it's wasting. It happens to dogs. It happens to human beings, right? So you could see, he needed a cane. He was moving rather slowly across New York sidewalks. I'm sure he could still move really gracefully across a gym floor or a stage. But when it's the hustle and bustle of 8th Avenue in Manhattan, you have the cane just in case, just because people are like this all around you, right? So that was a little disturbing to see. Or we went out to the diner in one of the diners in Midtown, and he ordered a matzo ball soup, and I think he had, I don't know, a few spoonfuls and a little bit of the matzo ball, and that was it. I mean, he was full. Yeah. Now, as a Jewish man, no. Right, it'll be sad when I get to that stage when someone puts just even a matzo ball soup, let alone a pastrami sandwich or something like that, in front of me, and it's like 3 bites. Oh, good. Now it's like, oh, what? I just came from a July 4th barbecue with my family, and it's like, Frankfurter, yes, thank you very much. Ooh, hamburger, yeah. Oh, this hamburger, you brought these non-kosher ones with bacon and cheese in the meat, which is about as decadent as anything I could ever think of in my life. Yes, I'm having, yes, potato salad. Ooh, potato chips and corn. Oh, I haven't had corn chips. You know, with the Doritos, with the nachos on that, and the dip and chocolate. Oh, there's little chocolate candies. Yes, and I'm just like, until, and I'm also drinking, I'm like, root beer and the Pepsi. I never drink Pepsi. Downing some coffee and a little sip of white wine, because I do mix my drinks. I do. I know this is dangerous, but I do actually have coffee and white wine in the same proximity. And what else? Oh, and then cake, for crying out, and cookies. So I'm a human vacuum cleaner at things like this, right? I'm still burping from July 4th, right? So, and we'll be sad when I get to the point when I go to a party like that, and there's like 1 scoop of potato salad, a little bit of coleslaw, and half a hot dog, and I'm good. And no dessert. No dessert, right? But, yeah, Richmond, last time I saw him, I had an extra ticket to see the Broadway musical Mean Girls. So it was still fairly recent, I guess. And I invited him to be my +1 because he was my theater critic and theater-loving friend.
David, I wrote in the watch party, we had like 20 people.
Yeah.
There were awesome actor Adam Pascal in the neighborhood of Rent.
Yeah. Joyce is reminding everyone that Adam Pascal, for those of you who are tuning in late or late-ish or waiting for Adam Pascal, I'm yapping here. He's coming, I promise. It might be an hour and a half in. It might be 2 hours in. Adam Pascal and Rabbi Saul are coming. But, yeah, I can use, my tab is right there. No, thank you ever so much. I'm good. So, my darling, adorable wife, Joyce, I need to point this way because it's yeah. Wow, nice hand. Ooh, nice bottle. So,
I'm going to go make tea.
Thank you, Ben. So I'm talking about Richmond. Give us before you go down again, can you give us a Richmond story?
So Richmond was a beautiful man.
Louder, please.
Richmond was a beautiful man, and Richmond was very kind. And Richmond always had a very much younger lady with him who he was spiritually connected to, which I think meant,
Meant Lingam Yoga.
Yeah, but he was just a very positive, very kind of chill, very kind of just a good lad, a good lad. Yeah, good lad. I thought he was a good fellow.
He really was. I didn't even mention.
He was a mensch.
Yes.
And he gave you, when David did one of his many plays that he performed and did all over the world, even in Chennai.
No, different play in Chennai, India, yeah. Yeah, I told the story
Yeah,
about Shalom Dan.
He was I thought he was very supportive.
Yes.
He removed his ego from stuff, and he really helped people.
Yes.
And he was just very decent human being, a good soul, decent man, very decent.
Ask the dozens and dozens of young folks who studied mime with him, who studied just acting and theater with him.
And they did the thing by was the oldest mime, right?
Oh, he was. That's right. This is really cool. If New Yorker did a piece on him a few years ago. There's a marvelous video of him that was done just a couple of years ago about being the world's supposedly oldest working mime. I don't know if he's the oldest living mime, but the oldest one who was still doing it well into his late 80s. So just Google Richmond Shepard, you'll find that. And if you go on totaltheater.com, by the way, not to give a plug, but if you go on my website, totaltheater.com, you can find a bunch of Richmond Shepard reviews because he would review shows for that website for many years. So check that out too. But yeah, we went to see Mean Girls on Broadway, and it was cool because the theater was 2 blocks from where he lived, over on a nice little apartment on 8th Avenue. Tiny little place that he kept forever. And he was a frugal guy, because if you're in this business and you don't get famous, right, you scrape it together. But he had his equity card. He has a SAG card as well, because he did some TV, he did some other stuff. And so, he had Medicare, and he was always so proud of this. He would go to the senior center for lunch, whether he had money or not. Because you could get $3.50, he would tell me. You get a lovely meal. You get this and a side and a dish and a little dessert, $3.50. And he would do this basically every day. The senior center near his apartment. And as a matter of fact, towards the end, they would deliver. They do the food run things from food banks and stuff. And he couldn't really get there on his own steam that safely, so that they would bring to him. Fine. He's entitled, man. Like I remember we were sitting through Mean Girls, and I wonder if that's the last play he ever, maybe the last Broadway show he ever went to. I don't know. And we're watching it, and I'm looking at him, and he's looking at me, and we're both really not liking this show. It's nothing terribly wrong. I just didn't find it terribly funny. It was loud. It was meh. And I'm looking at him, and he's agreeing. I tell by his face, and I look, and he's like, "You want to go?" And he's like, "Yep." I wanted to go back because I respected it enough. I was interested enough to see the second act. But, had to get him out of the theater. He had to go down on this special lift they have in the theater, which is a fabulous thing. I know they had this. Then you go out a particular entrance, and instead of having to walk downstairs, they've got this thing that's just it's like an elevator. It's just this elevated platform that brings you down so you can go straight out the theater. And, we hugged, and I said, see you in a bit. And I watched him just walk frailly, but purposefully down the block till he got back to his apartment. And I figured, I kind of sensed that would be the last time I was going to see him, which is on me, because I've been in New York for half a year. He was right in Midtown. I could have paid him another visit. So, a bit of a shame on me there. But I kind of figured that was also a good last whatever. He always respected what I did with the magazine that he no longer wanted to deal with. Performing Arts Insider. I talk about it all the time. I push it on the show. I want you to subscribe to it. He was the editor and publisher of Performing Arts Insider throughout the 1990s. And then he just got tired of doing all the work, man. And he wanted to stop doing it and concentrate on travel and teaching and mime and acting again and writing. And this magazine would just take so much of his time. And I said, Dave, do you want to take it over? Because people rely on this thing. People really like it and need it and use it all the time. It would be a shame, since it was started in 1944 by some other folks, to kill it now, just because I'm too burned out and tired of doing it. Do you want to come into it? And I said, me being me, I said, absolutely, sure. And the timing was really terrible, in fact, because I had a hard copy publication called This Month on Stage of theater reviews that I was publishing at a terrible financial loss and a tremendous amount of work. And I folded it up and says, I'm going to stop this. It's going to go online. And that's how I created totaltheater.com, right? So I'd gotten out of the hard copy publishing biz. Bye-bye. It's all internet now. I'm great. And suddenly he comes to me and says, Dave, do you want to take over this hard copy publication? I'm like, oh, sure, okay. And he gave me a budget to do it with. No salary. We were co-publishers. But, that came with his being essentially co-publisher in name only, to still have his name on the masthead, to write some reviews, to make some suggestions or send me some rumors and things, and then be able to get the theater tickets, which is kind of what it was all about. And I kept his name on the masthead ever long as I've been running Performing Arts Insider. And so, the new issue will have Richmond Shepard's picture on the back. Anyway, did I mention that Richmond Shepard died on July 2nd, 2 days before July 4th? So I'm trying to think if there's anything else to say about our years together, our friendship. Let me check. I made some notes here. So talk amongst yourselves, cry amongst yourselves if you must. He was also a painter. If you ever went to the Richmond Shepard Theater and there were paintings on the walls, some of them, those were his. He was one of those jack of all trades and master at a couple over the years. So all I can do is bid him an incredibly fond farewell, because he gave me great advice. He gave me fine friendship. He gave me help when I needed it. He gave me another livelihood. I wouldn't say it was another income, but it is another livelihood in the sense of helping to publish a magazine or a journal that people really rely on and subscribe to and care about, right? Helped me with my show. He was a really good dude. So, as my wife said, an absolute mensch. I don't know about the lad part, but he certainly was a mensch. Farewell from the Daverhood to Richmond Shepard. And if you want to find out and listen to all the times that he was a guest on this program, all you have to do is go to davesgoneby.com and just type in his name, Shepard, not shepherd like the sheep, Shepard like the Sam. And he was on several of our Tony Award shows where he was predicting who would win the Tony Awards in certain categories. There's also a couple of segments where he talks more about himself. And as I said, there's the one that he's specifically talking about the loss of Marcel Marceau. There was another, I think, about an actor's strike where I had him weigh in on his thoughts of what the strike was, something about union things, because he would have known about that. Anyway, Richmond Shepard, no longer in the Daverhood, but certainly in our archives and in our hearts from here on in. It's about 9:45 Eastern Time here on Dave's Gone By in the Daverhood with me, Dave Lefkowitz. It's our 703rd episode of the Podcastio Programmio of the Stream. We're going to have our Colorado Limerick of the Damned. We've been talking about Broadway already, but we'll go inside Broadway for news of the Rialto. What else we're going to do? We're going to have our Today Yesterday quiz. We'll do Greeley crimes, and actually there are no crimes to speak of, but some old times. And of course, Rabbi Sol Solomon will be chatting with Rent and Aida alumnus Adam Pascal in the Daverhood in a bit of a while. Remember that you can see Adam Pascal doing his acoustic concert a couple of times this month. He's at Malloy College this week, July 12th. He will also be at the John Engelman Theater in Northport. That is happening on July 15th. And then the Green Room 42 on July 18th. That's next Thursday, so Thursday week. And he'll be doing two shows, 7 and 9:30 in the evening. Let me see if there's anything else I want to, because I had so many things to talk about, but obviously I got wrapped up in losing my friend Richmond early in it. But on to happier things, because it's been sort of a cruddy week, right? We got off to a not wonderful start because my wife was up for a fellowship that she didn't get, so up yours, fellowship people. And I lose a friend, and I lose another person that I know, that Ward Morehouse, that we'll talk about later. And just not good. And the weather's muggy and hot. But through it all, and this is the beauty of ritual and having things that happen year after year after year that you can count on. Joey Chestnut won again at the Coney Island hot dog eating contest on July 4th. And my wife and I won't say we were this close, but we were this close to actually going, right? Because we see this every year on TV. My wife doesn't give one rat's ass about this. Me, I'm thrilled and fascinated. So she goes along with it. But we're watching this ridiculous sport, this insane competition of people shoving food into their mouths that would make normal people puke within a minute and a half on contact. But they're inflamed. They got stomachs the size of kettle drums, and they're figuring out ways to eat and break the hot dog and dip it in. Did you hear about this year? Some people use water. There are competitors in the hot dog eating contest who dip both halves of the hot dog and bun into Crystal Light lemonade. Lemonade! Because it's really not about enjoying the taste experience of barbecue. No, this is competitive activity eating. And Joey Chestnut, man, I was rooting for him. I don't know if he had the fire he had room in the belly. I don't know if he had the fire in the belly to break his world record from the year before. Because Joey, in 2018, I'm sure you know this, ate 74 hot dogs in 10 minutes. An average of 7.4 dogs per minute. And remember, this is with buns, man. This is like the kielbasi queen on Howard Stern. This is like, break it, chew it, eat it, swallow it. So I thought, maybe. And I can't say that it wasn't his year, because he ended up beating the nearest competitor by 20 hot dogs. So, or more than that. I think the nearest competitor had 51 or something like that. Joey downed 71 hot dogs at Nathan's this year. And it was thrilling for a few minutes because for the first 5 minutes, he was on a pace of 10 hot dogs per minute, which would be staggering, which would be 100 hot dogs in 10 minutes. And then, as he said, it was the heat or something, or he just really slowed down. Later, about 5 minutes in, something stopped, something happened, something distracted him, or whatever it was. But he significantly slowed down. And although he won handily, he was disappointed. I think the world was this. Both Trump and Vladimir Putin and the Chinese premier and Netanyahu and the premier of Luxembourg were all terribly disappointed when Joey Chestnut did not get the world record. He was off by 3 of even tying his own world record from last year. But he did win, and it was great to watch him. And was a gracious winner, an honest winner. And you know who was also really cool? Miki Sudo. We actually watched the women's competition this year too, which went on at 11:45. And they had Miki Sudo. She's this very cute, charming Asian girl. And she was doing it, and she won again. It was like it was his 6th title. It was something like her 4th or 5th title. And she won fairly handily over everybody else. About 30-something hot dogs that she downed. Which, I mean, compared to the men, I don't know why. I don't want to be sexist about this. That anything a man can do, a woman can do, sometimes better, blah, blah, blah. And yet, when it comes to eating hot dogs at a rapid clip, men, like the best woman's hot dog eater was equivalent to maybe the 20th of the men's hot dogs. I don't know why this is. And maybe they're built differently, their stomachs are different, the swallowing, not going to make any jokes here. I don't know what that is. So sexist as it is to say, there's a way to go. If men in this hashtag post-MeToo era of equality and real feminism and so forth, if men still reign in one domain, it's throwing hot dogs and buns down their throats, one after another after another. Women just don't do that as well. It's upsetting. I know this is hurtful to some women watching. Maybe that will change at some point. Maybe there will be the woman who comes in there. Might have to be a transgender person, because someone who was built with male equipment, but now is female in some ways, and suddenly they'll break the 50 barrier at least. And it's like, aha! Without even worrying about 70. But she was so great because she won. But she was disappointed in herself too. And first thing she says is like, oh, I felt great, I won, and hooray. And it was like, oh man, I took my eye off the ball this past week. I didn't really take care of myself. I wasn't doing stuff. And she even said it before the competition, which some people would do. Like they would psych themselves up by being humble and psyching themselves down. Of kind of like, so don't have high expectations of me, because I went off plan this week, I got lazy, I got distracted, I didn't do this. And then this past day, I tried to bulk down. I was in the gym and working at it, but before then, I kind of let it go. And yeah, saying that before then is kind of a reverse psychology. But she said it afterwards too. She said, I'm disappointed in myself. Could have done even better. Could have pushed for a bit more of a record. Both of them blamed the heat. Both Joey Chestnut and Miki Sudo blamed 84-degree heat outside at Nathan's in Coney Island for not doing as well as they hoped. But I mean, come on. It's July 4th. It's summertime in New York by the water. You can blame the heat, but it's not going to be 30 degrees there any year that you do this on the 4th of July. But still, how beautiful to watch them. I want those hats, man. Those official Nathan's hats that they gave out to the first, I guess, 100 or 200 people in the crowd. So all you see is this sea of people with hot dog hats and the yellow mustard on them and the yellow buns with the Nathan's writing on the side. That was beautiful. I immediately went on eBay to try and find one, and it was $75. I'm like, no. No, because you can get a styrofoam fake hot dog hat for about $6 plus shipping. I'm not going to pay $75 for a real official Nathan's hot dog hat. But perhaps some of those 100 or 200 people who were there live on July 4th, they're going on eBay, and they will drive the price down a little bit if you do, right? If it goes in the $10 to $20 range, Old Dave just might be interested in getting one of those Nathan's hot dog hats in honor of Miki Sudo and Joey Chestnut. I mean, John Glenn, okay, yeah, okay, he's on the moon, fine, fabulous, good for him. Right? Jonas Salk, he saves a bunch of children from polio, fine, whatever. And Frank, so she hides in an attic for a long time without a computer back then. That's boring, okay, and she didn't come to a good end. But Joey Chestnut ate 74 hot dogs last year, 71 hot dogs this year to take the mustard belt in the Nathan's July 4th monster eating competition. That's just a, sorry, Richmond didn't do it for me, but this is just so beautiful. Okay, sorry. I'll collect myself. See, I'm collected now. Speaking of eating, we didn't talk about this last time. I did want to mention this because this is so true of my life. 2 weeks ago, Joyce and I, my wife and I, are out of the house, and we don't like to do that.
You have 25 people in a watch party. Say hi.
Joyce says I have about 25 people in the watch party that she got together on our other Facebook stream. So. Well, thank you. Yeah, this folds over and it shows white. There's something I can do about that. Oh, thank you much. There's something she can know. It folded over again. It did it again. There we go. But we generally try not to go out together at the same time most of the time, certainly not for hours at a time, because we have an old dog, and when he gets lonely, he barks and barks and barks and gets upset. Right, and if he stays upset for a long particular period of time, he'll get some stomach. Oh, here's our dog. Here's Oofty making his weekly cameo. Say hi, Oofty. Yes, this should get us some viewers if nothing else.
Mustard. That's
okay. So, but if we leave him alone too long, sometimes he'll get an upset stomach and he'll throw up, or he'll have bile. Or he'll have a little bit of diarrhea. Don't want to have that. Don't want to deal with that. So we try and one of us stays with him, which we've been doing for years. We've barely been able to travel together. We can't even go to New York together most of the time. One of us has to stay home with the dog.
Baby.
But we go out for a few
Did
hours
you lift him up?
one day.
Come on.
Yeah, okay. There we go. Oh.
Do his Evel Knievel routine.
What's
Are you
the,
talking about his Evel Knievel? When he jumped off the bed, no?
Oh, no, I don't want to talk about it.
Okay.
He was fine, thank God. One time he jumped off our bed. That's not good.
Tell
But-
him we call him Ufti Knievel, like Evel Knievel. He's the real OG, the Ufti Guft.
And remember his old nickname that your mom gave him.
Oh, egg roll kid. I call him R. Kelly because he believes he can fly.
Well, he was also, back when he was young, even though he's a dachshund, he was pretty athletic in his day. So at one point, there was an egg roll on the kitchen counter. I'm not talking about the kitchen table. I'm not talking about a chair. I'm not talking about somebody accidentally dropping it on the floor. I'm talking about on a high kitchen counter, there was an egg roll. And this thing leaped up, grabbed it, and ate it. Well, it's probably about 4 years old at that point. So that's our routine. So 2 weeks ago, we leave, and because we're kind of living mostly in this room, we have a bag of snacks.
Oh.
We keep in the room for us. Not dog snacks, human snacks.
Some of them are unhealthy, but they're all from Trader Joe's, so we think they're healthy.
Well, so yeah, a lot of them are Trader Joe's, and we
Do you want to recreate it? I can get the snack.
Do you want to get it? Oh, because it's actually in there. We have a
Yeah.
bag. If you want, we can open. Let's show people our closet, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh no, these are pretzels.
Yeah, no, but I think there's in there a bag of. Yeah. So we have this bag on a high cubby shelf.
Yeah, it's about this IKEA bookshelf height.
Yeah. We don't even think about this when we leave the house.
We're worried about the chocolate because the cocoa's not good for them.
So there might be some chocolate in the bag. Probably was, right? But it was away from where a dog could leave. He couldn't have leapt and gotten this even in his youth. Thank you, babe.
I could get it.
But
I'm going to fix it.
It doesn't occur to us that something might rumble. Not like we're in the California earthquake zone.
No.
But it doesn't occur to us that so he might knock into something and knock the bag over onto the floor.
Yes.
Which we come back and realize that he does.
Yes.
And we come. He doesn't touch the chocolate, thank God. Doesn't touch anything else. What does he get to? He's got a bag of Trader Joe's organic, thank goodness, unsalted, also thank goodness, corn chips.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just kind of
And he has no teeth, so he can't eat them.
Right.
But he's like face down in the bag, licking them and trying to like chew them with no teeth.
Right.
Yes.
So he's got his mouth, his face in this open bag of Doritos.
Yes.
Or
Not
not
Doritos, they're organic.
Trader Joe's organic
white corn, no salt. Trader
tortilla
Joe's
chips.
Tortilla chips. Let's tell people we're not like savages, right?
So, Joyce comes home, she screams, she's like, oh my God, what's going to happen?
Because everyone's like, oh, the dog was very quiet today. It's like, oh, the children are quiet. Like, that's usually because they're doing something bad.
That's the tell.
Yes, that's the tell.
If your 5-year-old is in his room and he's quiet, he's drawing on the wall with a magic marker that's not erasable. That's what's happening.
He's using his feces.
Well, that's a special 5-year-old right there. So our dog is face down, licking, thank goodness, not chewing because he can't, this bag of corn chips.
Yes.
And
it was a new bag, so this is the end of it, but that was a huge bag and they all new.
And we're thinking, oh, God, because he's had issues every couple of weeks with diarrhea. Right? We don't know why. Well, because that's the thing you're most afraid of.
Because he has a sensitive stomach.
Exactly. So if oh, wonderful, he got into our snacks. Thank God he didn't get any chocolate.
Yeah.
But he's dipping into these processed snacks.
And he's got into one time a trail mix, but it didn't have macadamia nuts, which apparently are the worst for dogs. But it had some. It was the low end. So in it was from Sprouts, which is like Trader Joe's. But we bought the low end trail mix, so it didn't have the macadamia nuts, which was good. Yeah. Because those nuts were.
I think cashews are bad for them. Peanuts are fine. Yeah. I mean, he might choke on an actual peanut, but peanuts no problem. He eats peanut butter. He loves peanut butter.
He does.
But and it also, thank goodness, occurs to me that we used to give him corn. Yeah. We used to, and we would see corn because it's not, corn is not digested per se. We give him corn, and we say, oh, he had corn last night. It's the residue of it. But we're thinking, oh my God, we put mats down all over the carpet here.
We try to double diaper him.
Just in case, because we knew the diarrhea was coming.
Yes.
Wouldn't you know,
The Exodus.
having these corn chips from Trader
Joe's
Joe's,
should market them for dog
Yeah.
eating.
he had the best bowel movements of his life.
Yeah.
Perfect, solid.
Yes, they were beautiful.
Sometimes he gets constipated. It would be a day or two before he goes.
David.
This time it was like he went 4 times within a 24-hour
I'm going to
period.
play the hurdy-gurdy to make
Solid
this.
and beautiful.
Here we go.
And it just occurs to me. I don't know if anybody can hear that. That this is the first and only time in history that a creature actually had better bowel movements from eating Mexican food.
No, well, he didn't eat like salsa or beans. He just
No,
had
no.
really good corn. It's like polenta. He was happy.
I know, it's tortilla chips,
He was
man.
happy. Why don't you try it and see what it does to you?
And what it'll do to me is make it impossible for me to talk.
Oh,
But yeah.
that's bad talking. Good.
And what I will tell you, though, while I'm talking, is that it's 10:05 Eastern Time here in the Daverhood for the 703rd episode of Dave's Gone By. We're calling it Pascal Lamb, because Adam Pascal is going to be with us
That's
talking to
awesome.
Rabbi Saul. Yeah.
He's such a nice man. I said, awesome actor, you know, really great, very like chill. And I put that he's going to be on the island.
Yes, he'll be at
Malloy, right?
Malloy College on the 12th. He's going to be at the John Engelman Theater in
I just
Northport.
put that.
Yeah.
You know, you could put his website.
And he'll be in
too.
Manhattan as well on the 18th. So
Wow.
Adam Pascal coming
Singing,
to the singing. Yeah, he's going to be acoustic with a guitar,
That's awesome.
singing songs from things like Aida and
Awesome.
probably Chicago.
I'm sure
and
he'll share some
Pretty
really good
Woman.
stories too.
I hope so. I'm imagining so.
I think he will.
And of course, Rabbi Saul will ask him about his years doing Rent off and on Broadway, his longtime friendship with Adam Rapp, as well as
Oh wow.
continued friendship with some of the other folks who were in the
What
show.
is it like working with Elton John, right?
Yeah, that's right, because he
That's
was in Aida.
Right? Aida's Elton John,
Right, man. So all these things, you're going to want to stay tuned to hear Adam Rapp in the Daverhood. We've also got our Colorado Limerick of the Damned coming up. We'll have, this probably will not have time for Dave's Big Dictionary, but we do have our Today-Yesterday quiz. Shall we get to Greeley Times? Oh, okay. While Joyce is doing what she has to do, speaking of what our dog does, I do want to remind you of a couple of things. First of all, I mentioned davesgoneby.com before, that it's the place to hear our archives. So if you've missed part of this show, be it the audio or the video, you can go to davesgoneby.com starting late Sunday, I would say. We put the archives for that week up, and we got the archives going all the way back to the very first episode that we did in October of 2002. So yeah, for the first 14 and a half years, 15 years, this show was audio only. We're not really a television show. It would be great if we were, but this is just an audio show that happens to have a video component. We're still radio. I mean, look at this face. This is not a TV. This is a radio face, right? So you want to hear the first show we ever did? It's on davesgoneby.com. The 10th show, the 210th, the 410th, the 610th show, they're all there at davesgoneby.com. They're free to listen to. You can either download them as MP3s or just stream them if you're worried about downloading from websites. Just stream them right on your computer. And as a matter of fact, we even have another website that we're dealing with now called Castbox. I think that's what it's called. I better check what it's called. Castbox.com. So if, let's say, you want to listen to this show, but you're not home on your computer, you want to hear the archives as a podcast, that is there so that you can do it very easily from a podcasting platform. It's called castbox.com, and we've already uploaded the last 6 or 7 programs that we've done, everyone from like the Tony Show
Okay, I'm
onward.
ready.
And you can listen to it there at
I'm
castbox.com. Also, if you want to email me, davesgoneby@aol.com is the place to do it. davesgoneby@aol.com, or certainly leave me messages here. You can post messages, give me thumbs up and emojis and stuff, both now and all week long, here at this Facebook address, Dave's Gone By. What else do I? Oh, and go check DaveLefkowitz.org. If you want to read all, I talked about Shalom Dammit, which I wrote, and I talked about the stories and articles and plays I've written. If you want to read a whole buttload of my stuff over the years, DaveLefkowitz.org is the place to do that. So, hon, are you ready
Yes,
for
I am.
Greeley Crimes and Old Times except it's really going to be just old times and one oddity.
Okay.
So,
Oddity?
Greeley Tribune, ooh, get on the stick. Ooh, that makes me mad.
That makes me mad.
So, let's play the intro music for that, which is a little bit of Tom Waits. Just play this more. It should be more echoey and old-timey, considering the music. So, yeah, as I mentioned, the Greeley Tribune is our hometown newspaper, which has been around for well over 100 years. And so they have a couple of columns that they do. There's Greeley 100 years ago, where our friend Mike Peters goes in. Our dog is jumping. I don't know why. Oh, well, there's probably some food. Did you give him that food that was over there?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Oh, there's food in the garbage. As he smells
Okay.
it. So,
Maybe you could divest of that?
David,
Yeah.
do you see that?
Yes.
Come here, you stinker.
The Greeley Tribune, which is our hometown newspaper, Greeley 100 years ago, are items that were published in this paper, or what it was called back then, the Greeley Tribune Republican. Mike Peters compiles those, and he takes the cutest, funnest, most nostalgic ones and puts them once a week in our current newspaper, which, by the way, still has one of the greatest things of all time, all the way A Tree Can Kill You. This was a front page.
And thank Friendly, because they alerted us to this tragedy of nature.
And okay, so this is funny enough. We showed this last week, but it's worth repeating. All the ways a tree can kill you, including stabbing.
Machete. Who knew that a tree would...
I mean, come on. That's
I
magnificent,
don't think
folks.
trees stab you. I think that's a lie.
I'm sure people who, in like hurricanes and things,
Yes, they get,
a
but
branch
that's not with the
gets
knife. They
impaled.
get impaled by a limb.
That's true. Are there knife trees?
I
No.
don't think so. Maybe Johnny Depp has a knife tree.
Why would Johnny Depp have a knife
He
tree?
played as
Oh, as with scissor hands. That's right, yeah.
That's how my synapses work in my brain.
I hear you. Anyway, so we don't have any crimes this week, but maybe there's been no crime in Greeley.
Whoa!
Maybe.
Peace breaks out amongst the Greeleyites.
Yeah. So there's just old-time bits from the paper a while ago. For example, doing funny stunts in the Greeley 4th of July parade
Ooh.
can earn you some money.
Whoa!
The funniest stunts can win from $5 to $25 in prize money. $25 back then was a
Usually
lot of
people do
dough.
those funny stunts near the Lincoln Tunnel, right? Isn't that right?
Well, and also, what's the old joke? What is the difference between the circus and the Rockettes?
The height of the kick?
No. The circus is an array of cunning stunts.
Oh,
Work it
don't
out,
say
folks.
that.
That's an
Don't
old
say
one,
that.
folks, yes.
Ba-dum-bum.
An oldie but a hashtag pre-me-too goodie. The Greeley
Why
Board
are you
of...
obsessed
I don't
with
know why.
this?
What else do you call it?
You're like senile. You hung up on. You're like pre-me too. It's
Because
so-
all
it's
men are
old.
now.
No, it's old. That's over.
It's not over.
Now it's just about gender equality.
Gender, okay, fine. In post-gender equality times, right? Is that what I
We'll
should
never
say?
have post-apocalyptic. We'll never have equality. Never,
Nor should we, because
ever.
men are better at eating hot dogs. We just
Let me
are.
tell you something.
Yes.
According to Marx, right, or Engels, that if you live in a capitalist communist society, we're never going to have equality.
No, of course.
We'll never.
Jesus said, not that I listen to Jesus, but he said the poor will always be with us.
Do you mean Yeezus?
Young Jeezy,
Kanye
he said that,
West?
yeah, yeah.
Yeezus is Kanye West.
No, but it's this kind of thing of... it's on men's minds now. Everything a man says, everything.
It's
yeah.
on your mind.
No.
It's on your mind.
Every person.
David, you work in a library.
Yes.
You're not working
With women.
in the hot pot of
Doesn't matter.
sexuality.
I work with women mostly, right? And so everything is informed and colored by.
Just put on your Nebuchadnezzar persona.
If I watch a show, if I watch a play from 30 years ago, it was something like Burn This or Frankie and Johnny and the Claire de Lune. What you watch it now is through the lens of where we are in gender equality times.
What do you call it? It's
What? No, it's like
you can't apply the values of today's society to something of another time.
Oh, you have to. That's the point.
No, you
You see
cannot.
how
you
they
cannot.
thought back then.
Ask Stephen, the historian, one how to do that.
Well, but there's things that don't work for us anymore. You know, Shakespeare's The Merchant of Venice worked like gangbusters as a pure comedy back when the Bard wrote it.
Yeah, but like Taming of the Shrew or
Yeah.
Ibsen, think of Doll's House. Doll's House works forever.
Right.
Because there's always somebody under the trundle of oppression.
Right, but there's still aspects of that show that were more geared towards, whatever, 1880s.
Oh,
Was it Norway or Sweden? Oh,
You're the
was
theater
Ibsen
person.
Norwegian or Sweden? I don't know. He was from the Laplands. I don't know. Anywho, so, what the hell was I saying? The Greeley, speaking of watching what you say in these post-gender equality times,
Can we call it the gender apocalypse?
the Greeley Board of Censors closed down 2 vaudeville acts at the Sterling Theater this past week because the women dancers were wearing gowns with necklines too low.
Woo!
And they also, and this is just, they were not wearing hose.
Wow.
So if you're not wearing hose, you are hose.
What is this world coming to?
I know, right?
I can't remember the last time I actually saw women wearing pantyhose.
Hmm.
You know, they're really gone out with the a lot of other stuff. Shoulder pads and pantyhose went out with the 80s, I think.
Well, I think some women still do the shoulder pad thing. It makes them feel like, you know.
Oh,
no?
don't mess your shirt, honey.
I know. All right.
You want to be pretty. Don't mess your shirt.
I feel pretty.
Don't touch anything.
Oh, you fixed that. Okay.
Don't touch anything.
Yeah, here we go.
Don't touch anything.
That's what my mom said when she taught me when I was 11 years old. But you know, oh,
I thought you were 13.
no, I was young.
Oh.
I discovered my little tutu quite young. Yeah,
Your peanut.
yeah, or whatever we want to call it here. We've been watching this show on Netflix called, what the hell is it called? It's with Nick Kroll and the other Saturday Night Live and Oh Hello guy. And it's a cartoon all about this boy and girl going through puberty and how it's completely messing up their lives.
Yeah.
Nick Kroll and John Mulaney doing that one together. I forget what the name of the program is called.
I don't know.
But anyway, it's pretty good. It's pretty sharp and funny and dirty and all the things you want from a cartoon in these gender equality times. So, our next item from Greeley Old Times
Big
is
mouth.
Big Mouth. Yeah, I don't know why. Well, they explain why.
Has a big mouth.
Yeah.
He's always saying stuff he shouldn't.
I wonder what that's like. Because of the added revenue
Yeah.
due to increased advertising, the Platteville Herald weekly newspaper
Yeah.
will increase from 5 to 6 pages in its next edition.
Whoa. Call the police. There's a madman in town.
But what I don't understand is how is that possible? I've been in the publishing game for 30-something years.
They do single-sided pages because they're doing it on printing press.
So there was no...
They're going printing press. You know.
Oh, so that's right. I'm wondering, how the hell can you have a magazine that's 5 pages
All
long?
they're doing is, it's not like the laser jet printer. They're printing it with those little tiles. They're putting it in and they're
Right.
cranking it out.
And so it's only single, so you can do as many as you want.
Yes,
Because it took me a long time to realize, because I'm an idiot, it took me a long time to realize that everything had to be in divisible by 4. Everything, 4, 8, 12, 16 is the only way you can do a magazine. Because why can't you have an 18-page magazine? Because you can't, unless you have 2 blank pages on the end. So, yeah, not the brightest bulb, let me tell you. But anywho, back then they could do 5 and they ballooned to 6 pages.
Oh my God.
That's exciting.
Oh, you messed up your thinking.
Oh, I messed up my collar again. Oh. Thank you. Thank you very much.
That looked good.
The Island Grove Racetrack.
Ooh.
Who knew that? Yeah, that they had that. I mean, Island Grove, isn't that over down by, that museum area? No, what do you call it? The place that you like to go to with that Potato Day. Centennial Village, yeah. The Island Grove Racetrack.
I don't know any where we live.
I've been away from Colorado so long, I've forgotten everything. Let me tell you.
I'll play this for you.
And they're off. Now, the Island Grove Racetrack is one of the best dirt automobile racetracks in the country. Okay, stop that. We're done. That's really annoying. And it's one of the best dirt automobile racetracks in the country. Ah!
Oh, sorry.
Yes. We're just going to put that over here for now.
Take the banger. Take the banger.
Okay, thank you very much. Actually, you know what TV show would be the best for the banger?
What?
MASH.
Potatoes hate that
That's
show.
comedy right there. Oh, they
Too
do.
close, too soon for potatoes.
This is the comedy that we do on Dave's Kind of Life. So, the Island Grove racetrack is one of the best dirt automobile racetracks in the country.
Wow.
And it is predicted that this year's race autos will reach speeds of up to or more than
5 miles an hour. 25?
No.
50.
60.
Woo!
A mile a minute back in
Killing
100
it.
years ago.
They're
That's,
killing it.
you know,
They're killing it.
but that is comparatively for the time.
Yeah.
It's just funny that now we don't even think about going 65 on a highway or something. Anyway, let's go elsewhere. Let's have a classic story
Okay.
from elsewhere. I didn't know about this, but we found this. It actually goes back to 2012, but I just found it online this week, and it's worth keeping. Dateline China. You know what? Let's do a little Chinese music.
Oh, God.
Oh,
Not even racist much? No.
no, that's not racist. This is how they sound. This is
No, this is
authentic.
racist. That's
Oh,
racism.
Really, you think?
Racismo. That's racismo.
That's just my special slant on Chinese music. But you know,
Go ahead.
thank you ever so much. Dateline China. This article goes back and was reported widely, apparently, but this story comes mostly from the Huffington Post in 2012. Okay,
You call it the HuffPo.
you're gonna love the headline here. Zookeeper
Yeah.
licks monkey's butt
Oh, no. I don't
to
like
help
that.
it poop.
I don't like that. What? No.
Yes.
Get a fake tongue. Just use a baby wipe.
Right.
Use
You
your
would think.
fingers
Yeah.
in a baby wipe.
Now there are people who say that this story might be spurious. It might be
It's
fake
not
news.
true. You can't lick
Uh,
somebody's butt. That's like, no.
There's some photographic evidence, but it's
Oh,
unclear.
No, it's
They
not
show
true.
the
It's
zookeeper.
not true. It's not true. They would use like they would get another monkey or some other animal. They
What?
wouldn't do it.
No, they can't get another animal.
Get a baby wipe.
You have
You
kissed.
use your fingers in a baby wipe.
Oh God. There's a joke in there. I'm not gonna make it, but you've kissed butt at
Come here,
work,
come
says the story, right? But this zookeeper took the act to a whole new and literal level. Chinese zookeeper Zhang Bangsheng, age 50 back then,
He's trying to get something in there.
reportedly did the unthinkable when a leaf monkey in his care
What's a leaf monkey? That's fake.
is a special rare primate. There's actually a leaf monkey, you know? And unlike most monkeys, he couldn't go apeshit. Okay. So,
Somebody wants to tell you that's fake news. Hold on.
oh. Okay. Trump Chicken is coming to weigh in on this story.
Fake news.
Are you sure, Chicken? Well, let me read the story, Chicken, and you can decide. All right, here we go. Apparently, the monkey could not pass a peanut.
That's not true.
It ate peanut. It couldn't pass this one peanut. So, Zhang licked the monkey's butt for, quote, over an hour.
Oh, no, that's fake. That's fake.
I guess.
David, that's fake.
I want it to be
You
true.
could go to like the porn store and get an automatic tongue and use that.
Wait, no, this guy who takes his work very
I
seriously.
don't buy that one bit.
He was
That's
trying to
fake.
get it to defecate.
That's fake.
Well, wait.
That's chicken.
It was first reported by a Chinese news agency citing the Wuhan Evening paper. Finally, the monkey defecated a single peanut. Only then did Zhang Bangsheng laugh with satisfaction. Ha 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 ha!
No.
Oh joy!
Oh,
Oh, what?
no,
Okay.
I found this.
Now, Bangsheng claims that the monkey was too small for medication to help it pass the peanut, so licking was the only way to help it after washing its bottom with warm water. Now, that makes it all right.
I don't know. You have to wear a tongue cock. No.
You know what they call it in China? Limming.
That's horrible. That's
So
just horrible.
some news outlets are questioning the story's authenticity and why Bangsheng used his mouth rather than the more traditional method, a warm cloth.
Yes, the baby wipe.
Right,
Baby
yeah,
wipe.
yeah,
It's
exactly.
not wiping.
On the other hand, the monkey was only 3 months old and the first to be born at the park in 10 years. So the Francois Nangur monkey, that's the name of it, which is a very rare primate and among China's most protected animals. So that is why they called in Zhang Bangsheng to help raise it. He's like an expert.
I'm sorry, no.
And when that...
I love animals, but I would not lick anyone's bum for an hour. I know.
Not even mine?
Not even if I'm paid.
Wow.
No, that's
Wow.
fake news.
I
Ask
don't-
chicken. Ask Trump chicken.
It does sound fake.
Ask Trump chicken.
So I will tell you this. When that monkey gets out of hand, John gives it a tongue lashing.
Oh, that's disgusting. It's gotta be fake.
Look, I don't have any more. That is the whole story.
Oh, lame-o.
Thank you very much. Yeah, maybe they are just shitting us. But, you know... Oh.
When is Adam joining the thing?
Who, what, where?
Adam,
Oh, Adam Pascal is coming. He said we're almost finishing the segment here. We also have today, yesterday to do. A Firestone man is in jail today. I guess that Firestone man got tired. No, the Firestone man is in jail after his arrest for stealing a radiator off the front of a Ford truck. He claims someone else stole the radiator and placed it in his work shed without his knowledge.
Whoopsie.
Sure.
Wasn't me.
Yeah. I will warn you this, kids. If you steal a radiator, you're going to draw the heat.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a little
You're
comedy
gonna
right
feel
there.
the steam of burn.
Yes, my friends. Are you ready for our last item in Greeley Crimes of Old Times
Yes,
today,
sir.
babe?
Yes, I'm ready. I'm born ready.
The Great Western Sugar Factory in Windsor has distributed 18,000 pounds of worm poison.
Oh, God.
It is hoped that the poison will stop the growth of the damaging web worms, which can destroy crops. And apparently all your system files as well.
Wow.
Those web worms.
Early virus.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that, my friends, and not a moment too soon, was Greeley Crimes and Old Times.
Mr. Horace Greeley was no fool. I'm sure that you agree with me that Greeley was no fool.
What he is getting at is that Mr. Greeley was no fool. Yippee-yi, 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 yi-yi, yippee-yi, yippee-yi, yippee-yi.
Whew, it's almost 10:30 in the Daverhood, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching the Dave's Gone By Facebookio, Podcastio, Programmio of the Stream live on this Saturday morning, July 6, 2019, with me, Dave Lefkowitz, my darling and adorable wife, Joyce. The name of this episode is called Pascal Lamb, because Adam Pascal will be with us in a little while.
Whose Hebrew name is not Adam.
No, it's like...
It's like Shlomo.
Yeah, how the hell...
My Hebrew name is Shlomo.
I mean, I've told the story on the air. How was it that when I was in high school Spanish,
Yeah.
my name was Jose?
I see that, David. Who's that?
No, because there were 3 Davids in the class, and we had one David and one Diego. Well, another time I was Diego, and then the third time I was Jose. I mean, seriously?
You can call me Betty. You can call me Betty, and I'll call
True story.
I'll call me out.
But Adam Pascal will be talking to Rabbi Saul Solomon
Yay.
in a while. Also, we'll have our Colorado Limerick of the Damned. Oh, no, that's gonna stop. Annoying. What else is going to be on the show? We'll have our friends of the Daverhood. We'll go inside Broadway. But before then, it is quiz time. It's time to have a bit of fun.
Where's my Cynthia? Cynthia Shuby.
Oh, yeah.
I
Oh, I
need
don't know
to
if she's
shoot
watching.
her.
Cynthia, I hope you are. Because
I hope you're
Karen
watching.
and Jeffrey and Gary and Gina and
Aw.
Steve and Trevor are all watching. And Tony and Philip and Bonnie, my Aunt Bonnie. All these folks have tuned in, at least for part of the broadcast.
I can give you the list from downstairs. It's long.
Oh, we can read it like maybe when the
Yeah, I'll go do it
Pascal
once.
thing's
Yeah.
going on. But before then, I started this new segment that I really enjoy. It's called Today, Yesterday. It has to do with quiz questions that will answer. It's sort of like a wait thing, kind of. Not as funny. But we take the day, today being July 6th, and ask questions about all the things that happened in history on July 6th. Who was
What
born,
happened today?
who died. No fair, no fair.
Shut up.
It's not, you're supposed to get this as a trivia
I
thing,
will,
not
I
look
will.
it up.
I need help. Cynthia's not here to help me. I need some help.
Cynthia, if you're here, Cynthia's playing
helpful.
along. A couple of people are playing along. So feel free to post in our window here if you think you know the answers. And then also give other people a chance to answer the question.
Yippee-yi-yi.
Yippee-yee, yippee-yee, yippee-yee. So we call it Today, Yesterday. We're still thinking about what music we're going to use. But for now, we can kind of use this song from, oh, wait, I gotta start it like this.
Ooh, you know who was born today? My lady.
Well, don't even.
lady.
Quiet, yeah. Hold on.
My lady.
That may come up or not. So, it's Greeley crying. Oh, no, sorry. It's Today, Yesterday.
Will you answer?
Will you answer me these questions about July 6th in history here on Dave's Gone By? Are you ready, babe?
Yeah.
Cheating Wikipedia, babe? Here we
No,
go.
I'm not. I'm on influence.
Okay. In 1883,
Oh, Jesus Christ, David. Hold
on this date,
I don't have it. Go far that back.
born in London, but settled in Wisconsin, James Horlick,
Oh, I don't think so.
yeah, there's a name to grow up with, James Horlick, a pharmacist, and his brother William spent 10 years developing a patent for this beverage. It is made with barley and wheat and was first sold on this date in 1883 under the name Diastoid. Didn't sell much until they renamed it this in 1880. And Cynthia just tuned in. Hey, Cynthia. So welcome.
Is it Ovaltine?
Well, give people a chance to chime in. Might be, might not be. I'll read it again. Born in London on this date, a guy named James Horlick
Yeast.
and his brother.
That's yeast.
Is it brewer's yeast? Is it Ovaltine? This is remember, it's a beverage made
Is it
with
alcohol?
barley and wheat, and was first sold in
Oh,
1883.
it's probably wheat germ.
No, under the name Diastoid, until they renamed it in 1887. So, what is this beverage? What is this item that they put in? Cynthia Shub says Dr. Pepper.
Cynthia! Yay, Cynthia!
But it's
your
wrong.
birthday, no?
No, it's not true. Now, this is before, I don't know how old Dr. Pepper is. Might be quite old. But nope, that's not it. Remember, this is a beverage with barley and wheat. Joyce mentioned that it might be alcohol, but it's not. I'm going to give another bit of a count. Someone said, now, can you check what's in Ovaltine?
Oh, crap.
Yeah, because Cynthia also says Ovaltine. And I'm not sure if this is in Ovaltine. So
Is it spirulina?
It's not spirulina. That's a pasta, isn't it?
What is it called? Okay. What's in Ovaltine? What's in Ovaltine?
Crushed skunks.
Malt.
I guess you're right. I will accept Ovaltine. The answer, I guess, you're right. That is true.
Horlicks, Yoo-hoo, or hot cocoa?
Yeah. It's basically malted milk. The idea of a malted malt.
Malted. It says type malted dairy drink.
Malted dairy
Malted
drink. So
dairy
Ovaltine,
drink,
you're right.
yay.
Ovaltine, you're right. By the way, in December, just a year ago, December 2018,
Wow,
Unilever bought
David.
Horlicks for $4 billion. Yeah.
Ovaltine was banned in Denmark
Why?
because it has rich source of B and folate, and they feel it's enriched with illegal additives.
Oh.
So there's something rotten in Denmark with Ovaltine.
Oh, gosh. But
Lifetime ban.
they're going to have, like, dodecahedron team.
Oh, God.
So just, for a different shape. Circle team.
Dodecahedron?
Yeah, instead of oval.
That rolls off your
That's
tongue.
comedy right there. Anyway, okay, so that's question one. So yes, Cynthia, and yes, Joyce, you got it there with, I will accept Ovaltine. It was essentially malted milk
Oh.
was invented at that point. Are you ready for question number two?
Yes, hit me.
Though cunning and brave, this English king, crowned on this date, July 6th, 1483, was also a treacherous flatterer. His reign lasted only 2 years before he was overthrown, killed, and buried unceremoniously.
Is it Donald Trump?
Shakespeare
Huh?
wrote a play about him, Punch and All. Oh, no, it's not Nixon. Okay, so this is a treacherous but also very cunning English king
And he
about
wasn't-
whom Shakespeare
he
wrote a
wasn't
play.
the first, the second, or the third, and it wasn't Hamilton.
Well, you're mostly right on that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I'm doing this like they can't see my mouth move. Well, and remember, we have a tape delay here, so we've got to give them a chance to hear
2, 3,
and write in. So who was
microphone.
it? Who was this king? Cynthia says Lear. It was not King Lear. I think King Lear's fictional. So that is not a real...
Cynthia, don't drink the Ovaltine, girl. It's making you kooky. No Ovaltine.
And this is in
Ovaltine,
English.
girl.
Lear was Scotland, so this is an English
Yeah.
king.
Just give this, the nickname would be Dick.
Yeah, and he apparently was, certainly in the Shakespeare play he was.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to chime in on our today-yesterday question about this king who was crowned on this date in 1483? And I'm going to give it a 3. I should have dum 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 dum. Oh! This should be my thinking music.
Yeah.
Where's my hammer?
You took the hammer.
Where's my
girl.
bopper?
It's right over there. Give it to me. It's on there. Pull it off.
Oh yeah. And Cynthia says yes, but which one, Cynthia?
Oh. Don't mess with my
And
girl.
by the way, more than Cynthia can play at home. Just type on in and let me know if you're listening or if you want to take guesses at this. But Cynthia, you're on the right track, but I kind of need to know. So let's give it a couple more seconds. No, sir. Boom, boom. So, do we have an answer? And yes, Cynthia, you got it. It was Richard III, King Richard III, who, if you ever see the Shakespeare play, he's very wily, very cunning. I mean, he murders a woman's husband and then he seduces her in the next scene. It's pretty amazing.
That's the plot of Young and the Restless, too.
Basically. So, okay, so we've got 2 questions in. We're doing our today-yesterday quiz. On this date, in 1942, this
God.
writer went into hiding.
Oh.
Give it a moment. 1942, that's kind of a hint right there. In hiding.
Yeah.
I think we were even talking about this person, joking about it a little while ago.
Yeah.
Probably was. Who was?
Be direct about it. Be direct or be.
Oh, you got it. Yeah. So use your upstairs
Yes.
to think about this one.
Don't put any cobwebs there.
And I call this person a writer, but really they had only one book.
Kind of a book. It was autobiographical. in
Yes, it
nature.
was. Yes.
And the person was not an adult. They were really a teen, right?
And our winner again,
Yay!
even though there have been no other competitors.
Go Shuby!
Well, actually, Joyce got it before Cynthia
Go
did, I think.
Shuby!
But
Go Shuby!
the
It's
answer,
your
of course,
birthday.
is
Go Shuby! Go Shuby!
Anne Frank.
Go Shuby!
Yeah.
Dooby Dooby.
this was the date that she first went into that attic in Amsterdam. I guess she was killed either in 44 or 45. Of course, you know the most famous joke
What?
about the world's most hated actress.
No.
Oh yeah, you must know. You all must have heard this joke.
Yeah.
There was an actress who was so despised that when she was doing the Diary of Anne Frank, in the last scene, everybody in the audience went and pointed to the Nazis and said, "She's in the attic."
No, that's terrible.
It's a joke, isn't
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah,
Don't
well,
do that.
it?
That's a horrible audience.
On July 5th, 1957, 2 Englishmen met for the very first time 3 years before they formed the band. Were they either Mick Jagger and Keith Richards?
I'm just waiting on the flame.
Were they John Lennon and Paul McCartney? Or were they Eric Clapton and Ginger Baker?
Who's Ginger Baker? Is that a real name?
Yeah, it's a real name, certainly.
It sounds like a TV show in British cooking shows. The Ginger
Baker.
Baker.
Who's a Ginger Baker? Right.
To make Michael Bears.
So who met for the very first time on this date in 1957? Was it Lennon and McCartney? Was it Jagger and Richards? Or was it Clapton and Baker who ended up forming Cream? So, I know that's kind of gross sounding, but they
That's
did.
disgusting.
Yeah.
I hope it's not that.
Who
I'll play some music.
was it? Yeah, give us some thinking music. We have a guess from Cynthia. Is she right?
It's the Beatles.
You're saying it's the Beatles
It's the
too?
Beatles, yeah.
And we have two people saying it's the Beatles.
Come on, Shooby, Team Shoob.
And the winner is Cynthia and Joyce got this one. It was John Lennon and Paul McCartney. As a matter of fact,
Oofy said it was a corn chip.
Lennon was already playing in the band The Quarrymen at a local county fair. Paul McCartney showed up. They met, kind of became friends, and the rest is really, truly musical history. So on this day, music, the world changed on July 6, 1957.
And not for the better.
I wouldn't say that. Born on this date in 1887.
Oh my God, is that me?
This Lithuanian Jewish...
Lithuanian.
Why you can't look it up? That's not fair.
I
Guess first, then
Okay,
look it up.
okay.
In 1887, this Lithuanian Jewish painter was born in Belarus. You will know this. I bet you know this one.
Oh, sorry.
Oh.
You're looking at me and telling me to say it.
No, I don't want you to say it. I want you to guess, and then when we call for it...
Look, I can't do this.
Well, if you didn't hear it, folks, born in Belarus, his work in paintings and stained glass...
Justin Bieber?
Yes.
Is it Bieber? Beepster?
Told of Russian village life, and even influenced the title of the musical Fiddler on the Roof. Who was this Russian Jewish painter and Belarusian painter? Boy, what is that? That's not even Fiddler on the Roof. What the hell are you singing? Oh my God.
You're so mean to me.
I'm not being mean. I'm just saying you gotta give people a chance. Give people a chance. All we are saying.
Was it Hamilton? Was it
No, it was not Lin-Manuel Miranda. Was not born in
Yes, he was.
1887.
Yes, he was.
Anyway, yes, born on this date, Cynthia got it too. In 1887, the Russian Jewish painter Mark Chagall, and the image of that bearded guy with a fiddle, that's Chagall.
Yes.
Yeah. So you got that one. Yeah. But you didn't have to look it up. You knew it.
Because I know that.
Yeah. And you probably will get this one too. Okay?
Oh, shush.
Also born today, but in 1907.
They could just look on my Facebook and they'll get it.
Yeah. This Mexican artist suffered polio and a crippling bus accident,
Yay.
but in her short life went on to become one of the most iconic mixers of folk art, autobiography, and surrealism. Who am I?
It's J-Lo.
Is who? J-Lo?
J-Lo's Puerto Rican.
No, she's from the block.
J-Lo's Puerto Rican, too.
Is she? Yeah. Oh,
She's from
not
the Bronx,
Mexican.
so
Yeah.
Bronx, yeah.
Well, you're Mexican, Puerto Rican. They're all the
Hey,
same.
hey,
In this political age, they're all the same. So, what painter are we talking about? Born in 1907, Mexican.
How long did she live, do you know?
And I even mentioned her. I don't know if they were. I guess they were married. Her boyfriend's name a moment ago, when I was talking about what I was called in Spanish class. Like her longtime. I guess were they married?
Yeah, they were married.
So yeah. I mentioned his name, his first name.
I think they're also divorced.
Probably. Who? Oh, I'm waiting for Cynthia. I'm waiting for folks to chime in on this one.
Look at the
There we
image
go.
that is. Look at the image that is my Facebook account. They'll know.
So the answer is, and yes, the image, if you go to Joyce's Facebook account, those who are joining her watch party, the answer is the eyebrow lady, the unibrow herself, Frida Kahlo, was born in 1907. Well, it was Friedrich, whatever the hell, Rosenstein, something like that. Von Gamarcus the Fifth. Anywho. Born today, let's see if we get this one. Born today in 1925. This early rock and roller was only 19 years old. On Shake, Rattle, and Roll became the first rock and roll song to enter the British singles charts. His rise in music was comet-like, and by the 1970s, he sank into alcoholism and mental illness, don't we all? But who was this legend who told us, see you later, alligator? Yeah, don't say it yet.
I don't remember.
So, welcome back, Art Paul. We haven't seen him in years. Welcome, Art Paul, and to Rick and Cynthia. He was there last week? Oh, okay. Well, welcome back again, Art Paul. So, Art Paul, you should get this one. You know music. Who was born in 1925 and came up with the song Shake, Rattle, and Roll, See You Later, Alligator. It was the first real rock and roll song on the British singles charts. And although he had an unfortunate end of life, I will say also this, if you watch the first year or two of the TV show Happy Days, they literally played this whole 2-minute song during the credits before they changed the Happy Days theme to Sunday, Monday, Happy Days, something that was later written for the show. But you literally, if you tune in to Happy Days, you would have to sit through a 2-minute and 10-second song by Bill Haley and get through the friggin' credits before the show would even start. Did I just say the name? Yeah, I did, didn't I? Bill Haley. And the song, of course, was
La Bamba.
No, that's Richie Valens. No, what's the song?
Good Times.
No, it was Rock Around the Clock, the game changer song in American pop. Yeah.
Rock around the clock.
Well done, Art Paul, Bill Haley of Bill Haley and the Comets.
Around the clock
Tonight. They even have the guitar break in there.
We're gonna rock around the clock tonight.
Rock, rock, rock in the broad daylight, gonna rock. Even if you don't like 50s music, you know that song. Even if you don't watch Happy Days, you know that song. Except now they've changed it where after the first season they went to Sunday, Monday, Happy Days, because it was only a minute long. Well, maybe that
okay,
too.
going to the next one. I have my computer ready.
All right, Art Paul said, I guessed it, but then you said it. And then Joyce got it too. I think Cynthia, did Cynthia get that one?
It's your birthday. Art Paul, it's your birthday.
So Cynthia's rocking the house on this.
Go AP. Go AP.
We're doing our Today Yesterday quiz. Go AP. Who's AP? Oh, go AP. Yeah,
AP.
and CS.
Cynthia's the shoe.
Here we go.
Shooby-dooby-doo.
Born on June 6, 1948.
Yeah.
This English comedian, don't look up this one, you might get
What?
this one. This English comedian
Yeah.
in 1948, she was born, lucked out when she met her roommate, Dawn. The two became regulars at the English club The Comic Strip, which led to her appearances on The Young Ones.
Is it Tony Orlando?
No, it's a comedian. And ultimately, a show called Absolutely Fabulous with Joanna Lumley.
I don't know her. I know the woman. I don't know what her name is.
She's 60 years old now and has been married for many years, since 1985, to Young Ones cohort Ade Edmondson.
I don't know her name, but she's lovely.
Well, yeah. Who are we talking about?
Styles?
Who's Styles?
I don't know the name. It says Shuby and
Well,
Artie Paul.
Well, think about it for a moment.
Give me the year, baby.
She was born in 1948. Remember, her roommate, and they didn't get along at first, but eventually they started doing comedy together. Her and Dawn, but that's not Tony Orlando, were doing stuff in an English club, and then they started doing English television together, ultimately leading to their pairing, or her pairing, Joanna Lumley, on Ab Fab. Who are we talking about?
Lumley.
And the answer is, so Cynthia is asking the question, was she on Laugh-In?
No.
I doubt you're thinking probably of Judy Carn, and the answer is no. Not sure. She would have been probably 8 years old when Laugh-In was
She's the blonde
on.
one, but I don't know her name. Right?
She is the blonde one.
She's great.
Yeah.
And we saw her in an Agatha Christie where she killed it.
Oh,
She was great.
Yeah.
She played in a lot of
That's
Agatha
right.
Christie.
And she and her roommate Dawn even had a show together before Ad Fab called by their last names.
Yeah, but we're stupid. Tell us.
Oh, I'm waiting to see if somebody chimes in with the. I'm going on trust here that you're not Googling, you're not wiki. So.
Did you have a mini stroke? Are you okay?
Now Dawn, her last name is French. Dawn French.
Saunders.
Joyce got it.
I don't know her first name.
French and Saunders. Jennifer Saunders. Jennifer Saunders from Ab Fab was born today in 1948.
I couldn't have done it without my team.
Sad one coming.
Shoe Paul. I call him Shoe Paul.
Oh, Shoe Paul. I like that. Okay, here we go. In 2003, sad day, we lost the star of the Beverly Hillbillies and Barnaby Jones. He died of respiratory failure on this stage. Who was the star of Beverly Hillbillies and Barnaby Jones? Remember, this is the kind of name you know it, but when you're suddenly asked and confronted under the clock, you're like, oh! So I'm going to give you a chance. Yeah. That's why it's a quiz. That's why it's tough.
There's too much pressure.
Pressure. Yeah, what happened to my musical.
It's right
Here it is. Here it is. So I'll give you a little thinking music.
Is it Magnum PI?
Is on, I think, no, and he's alive.
Oh.
As a matter of fact, he did that show,
Blue Bloods.
Blue Bloods. He's still in Blue Bloods, right?
No, he's not.
Cynthia's got it. So if you're not looking at Cynthia's comment,
Cynthia, it's your birthday. Go, Cynthia.
Oh.
It's your birthday. Go, Cynthia. It's your birthday.
come listen to a story about a man named Jed. Jed or Jed? Jed Clampett, right?
Sure.
Da-da-da-da, something in a shed. Had an aneurysm and it burst his head. Beverly Hillbillies, something like that. Anyway, Cynthia got it right. The person that we're talking about is the late Buddy Ebsen, who was Barnaby Jones.
Cynthia, that's
Yeah.
esoteric. You nailed it, girl.
Okay.
Go, Shooby. Go, Shooby. It's your birthday. Go, Shooby. Shooby-dooby. Shooby-dooby. Shooby-doob. Do the shoob.
I'm
Do the
doing,
shoob.
yeah.
Shooby-dooby. Shooby-dooby.
But we're giving away her last name relentlessly here. And, and Cynthia's saying it was Jed with a D, like Jedediah.
Wow.
So cool. All right, we got one last question in our yesterday quiz here on Dave's Gone By. Are you guys ready?
Yes.
Ready at home? Ready, Joyce?
I'm
Here we
ready.
go. Now, this has a long lead up
Oh,
because
God.
I'm giving a lot of information here. On July 6, 1946, this African-American painter, whose last name is also the name of a Broadway dance musical, died at the age of 58. Even though this painter's arm was injured in World War I, he worked on everything from landscapes to biblical themes to overtly political paintings about slavery and racial injustice. He also
Yeah.
shares his last name with a basketball player who, with Michael Jordan, made the 1990s Chicago Bulls the most dominant NBA basketball team of all time.
I know
Who
nothing.
was this painter?
I know nothing of any of that.
African-American painter,
Yeah.
did both political works and kind of landscapey things, has the same last name
I don't know sports.
as a Broadway musical. And I'll hint on this
Better
one.
not
It's
be
by,
Hamilton.
no, it's not Hamilton. By Stephen Schwartz,
That doesn't
and
help me.
also a very, very well-known basketball player in Chicago. As
Oh,
part of the
Jordan?
Bulls.
Michael
No,
Jordan?
last name's not Jordan,
Michael Jordan?
but who with Jordan made the Bulls exceptional back then.
What year was it?
Well, wait, he died. The person we're talking about
Yeah.
died in 1946. We've seen him in museums. His paintings are kind of really simple in color and kind of blocky and outliney, almost like folk art a bit.
George Bush?
What?
George Bush?
No, an African American.
George Bush.
Okay, is there an African? Whoa! Someone has it. Cynthia has it.
Oh, no. What year?
Died in 46.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, you have it.
Yeah.
You can. Right. Okay. So we have it. We have it twice. And yeah, the answer is. Art Paul just keeps posting like YouTube links to his music here.
Art Paul,
He's not even playing the game.
Paul, slow it down, friend. Slow it down. Art Paul, slow it down. Slow your roll. Art
After
Paul.
our show, go back and watch Art Paul's
Paul,
music
slow your
videos
roll,
and
slow your
songs.
Roll, friend. Slow your roll.
But anyway, the answer is the person who died on July 6th, 1946 was African-American painter Horace Pippin. Horace Pippin. And the people I was referring to there was a musical, of course, called
But
Pippin,
who's the sports person?
Scottie Pippen, with Michael Jordan.
I
He
don't
was a
know
big
that.
guy on
Yeah,
that.
Nina
Yeah.
would know that. Our friend liked that.
Yeah, well, the Bulls were amazing
Yeah,
back
she
then.
liked that.
But anyway, that was yesterday, on Dave's Gone By, here on this July 6, 2019. Maybe one day, somebody on the radio or on a podcast will be doing a quiz that'll say, hey, what legendary broadcaster was doing his 703rd episode live on July 6, 2019? Oh, he's dead now. He had a horrible stroke and lost his leg.
No, God forbid. You're gonna be
Alzheimer's.
You're gonna be muy sexy.
Oh, thank you, dear.
Yes,
Thank
you
you
will.
so much. But yeah, we're here. It is live, 2019, for this episode of the Dave's Gone By Facebookio Podcastio Programmio of the stream with me, Dave, my darling, adorable wife, Joyce. How'd you all do? I know not everybody likes to
Yeah,
to
people
play
did
and
well. A lot of
chime
people.
in.
I'm
Oh,
gonna
Yeah.
Are you going to play the interview?
Oh.
Because I'm going to go to the watch party. I'll put it down.
Art Paul says the other posts are not his music, but they're the artists that we've been talking about. So he's been posting Bill Haley and I'm sorry, Art Paul.
Art Pauly.
You go, Art
it's
Paul.
It's your birthday, Art Pauly.
And he posted a patriotic song because of the 4th of July that just passed. So thank you, Art Paul.
Art Paul, you got the contextual references. Contextual references from Art Paul.
Yeah.
Contextual references.
Everybody have a peanut butter sandwich on Art Paul. Not physically on Art Paul, because that'd be gross.
That's my lunch every day, Art Paul.
Yeah.
Listen, David, I'm going to go tell people. Are you going to play the interview? I'll go cue.
Yeah, why not? So we'll get to Inside Broadway in a little while. We'll also have our Colorado Limerick of the Damned. Not sure what else we'll have time to do for the rest of the show. That might be it for the show. But my gosh, it's almost 11 o'clock, and I know you guys have been waiting patiently to hear Rabbi Saul Solomon interview the wonderful Adam Pascal. Now, of course, Adam Pascal is known for being an original cast member of the off-Broadway show that moved to Broadway and ran for many years, Rent. Adam Pascal was also in Aida on Broadway, the original cast of that show. He's also been a replacement cast member in such, well, I'm sure Rabbi Saul will give some of this introduction, but you probably saw him in Chicago, or possibly did. Memphis he was in, Pretty Woman, Something Rotten. He's also a rock musician and a folk musician, at least in the concerts that he's going to be giving all over New York over the next couple of weeks. You can find him on Long Island this coming July 12th. That's a couple of days from today. He will be at Malloy College in Rockville Center. And then on July 15th, you can go see him at the John W. Engelman Theater in Northport. And most important, well, no, they're all important. But on July 18th, next Thursday, not this Thursday, but next Thursday, July 18th, you can catch Adam Pascal at the Green Room 42 in Midtown Manhattan. So without further ado or a don't, let's hear a little Adam Pascal before he joins us in the Daverhood.
Find glory beyond the cheap-colored lights. One song before the sun sets. Glory on another empty life. Time flies, time dies.
Yes, we're going to have a glorious time with Rabbi Saul and Adam Pascal.
Hi, this is Adam Pascal. You've come to see my new acoustic tour so far at a venue near you. And I'm talking with Rabbi Saul Solomon on Days Gone By.
Oh, shalom, my friends. Shalom, my enemies. This is your old pal, Rabbi Saul Solomon, founder and spiritual leader of Temple Sons of Bitches in Great Neck, New York. And I am so excited today because I am going to be talking to a theatrical Jew. Yes, a Jewish person is going to be with us. Not only that, he is in one of the most legendary, or has been, in one of the most legendary Broadway shows of the last couple of decades. He was an original cast member of Rent, but oh my God, he was also in the Elton John musical Aida and the musical comedy Disaster. He was also a cast member of Memphis and Chicago and Something Rotten, and he was recently in Pretty Woman. He's a rock musician and a basic acoustic musician, as a matter of fact. You can go see Adam Pascal at the Green Room 42 on two upcoming dates. One day, two shows. Thursday, July 18th at 7 o'clock at 9:30 in the evening. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the Daverhood, Adam Pascal. Shalom, Adam.
Shalom, how are you? Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, a delight. Thank you. And so is your Hebrew name Adam?
Well, if I remember correctly, and I could be completely wrong, I feel like it was Shlomo.
Wait a minute. How
Is that possible?
And yet, unfortunately, with Jewish names, it's very, very possible. But did you ever ask your parents, like, why I'm not like the first guy who's named in the Bible, but instead Shloida?
I didn't ask them. I just accept what I'm told.
Now, do you have any memories of your bar mitzvah?
Sure, I have lots of memories.
Like?
I remember having to get up at like 4:30 in the morning the week before and go in and do these sort of whatever particular rites we did in the morning and wrap and fill in. There was all of that stuff that went on in the morning. I remember my bar mitzvah specifically. I remember my Haftorah was the shortest version of a Haftorah I think that you could possibly do.
Oh, you're so lucky. Oh my God, my Haftorah went on for weeks.
Yeah, mine I think was about 10 minutes long.
Well, what was it about? Do you remember did they ever tell you what you were saying in Hebrew, or you just chanted the words?
I wish they did. That they didn't, and I wish that I was more involved in what was going on. But a lot of times kids that age kind of just, unfortunately, they just go through the motions. We were a Reformed Jew family, and it wasn't something that was taken, so seriously. The inner machinations of the bar mitzvah were not particularly paid attention to. So, a lot of times, again, just sort of go through the motions, get through the Haftorah, have the party, and move on.
I hear you. Well, speaking of children, you do have two of your, they're not even children anymore, they're teenagers, but you've got two of your own. Did you raise them in any religion at all?
Well, unfortunately I didn't. And the reason I didn't is because, look, they know they're Jews, and culturally they're Jews, but I didn't raise them with the traditional religious aspect of being Jewish because, I'm quite frankly more of an atheist.
Oh.
And so, whereas I embrace my Jewish cultural heritage, and I'm very proud to be a Jew, I'm not a God-believing person.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm at 6s and 7s here, and even 18s being a Jewish. So when you say that you're culturally Jewish, I kind of know what that means. But what does that mean to you?
What it means to me is that, I'm very vocal about being Jewish, and I'm very proud of being part of, a community of such a small community, but such an influential community in this world. And obviously, as you know, many of the greatest inventions and scientific discoveries have been done by Jewish people.
Oh, the corned beef sandwich.
Of course, one of which I love, as long as it's lean enough.
God. But cut thick, yes.
I'm very proud to be part of that community. And so, I certainly grew up, having a Seder, every Passover, lighting the candles for every Hanukkah, fasting for Yom Kippur.
Oh.
So, we observed those holidays. But we weren't a family that went to shul. We weren't a family that did more religious aspects of it.
Well, it's all about treating your fellow person right. That's really what it all comes down to. The rules and the rituals. It's just about being nice and understanding of your fellow man, woman, or transgender person thing.
And to be honest with you, that's another one of the things that I love about being Jewish is that you are allowed to take that path within the confines of the religion. And I don't think a lot of other religions are that liberal with their doctrine.
That's right. Sun Myung Moon, never. Nothing at all like that. If you remember him. Exactly. Now, speaking of small, tight communities, you didn't even expect that you would be a theater person. You were going to be a rock and roller. You were one when Rent kind of magically, or sort of accidentally almost, fell into your lap, correct?
That's correct, yeah. I was living in New York City at the time and had been playing with my band, the same band for many, many years, junior high school. And I got a phone call from another fellow Jew, a Jewess, Idina Menzel, who I grew up with on Long Island, and she had been cast in Rent off Broadway, and she said that they were looking for somebody for this particular role. They were having a hard time casting it. It was the role of this guy named Roger. He was a rock singer, and the show was supposed to run off Broadway for about 6 weeks, and she thought it sounded interesting, and she thought the role sounded interesting for me, and asked me if I wanted to go in and audition.
And of course you did, and I think it said, or you said somewhere that your audition piece was a U2 song, not your typical Broadway fake book thing. So but you didn't even realize it. Like, you were so young, you didn't realize that was different and special for an audition for a show.
I kind of didn't know what I was doing, and I think my just my lack of knowledge and my naivete allowed me to go in there and just be really comfortable. I got to be honest with you, the most comfortable I've ever been in an audition since, you know. And so, you know, I was able to just do what I do, and you know, they responded. But yeah, I sang a song from the Joshua Tree called Red Hill Mining Town.
But were there callbacks and you had to do other stuff, or was just one audition and you had it?
No. After my first audition, they gave me a demo recording version of the song "One Song Glory," which is one of the songs that the characters in the show. And I had to go home and learn it, and then come back the next day and sing it. And then I had to come back another time and sing it. And then they gave me the song "Your Eyes," which is the song that the characters sing at the end of the show. And then I had to go home and learn that and come back and sing it. So within a 5-day period, there were four auditions.
Whoa.
So I think I had the Wednesday off. So then by Friday, you know, and each time I had come back, there were more people in the group. And so by Friday, I guess everybody and anybody who had to sign off on me was in the group. And I gave my last audition, and that was it.
Now, do you have any memories, because I'm sure you're asked a zillion times, as all the other Rent cast members are, about the night that Jonathan Larson died, and then you had to perform, you were opening the next day. But what about memories of him when he was alive? Do you have any anecdotes about the composer of Rent?
Well, I wish that there was more time that I got to spend with him. You know, unfortunately, I only knew Jonathan for about, I want to say 4 to 6 weeks, because I met him when I was cast in the show. We rehearsed. Actually, it was less than 4 weeks. It was probably 3 or 4 weeks. So I met him when I was cast in the show. We started rehearsals, and then he passed away the night of our open dress rehearsal. So that was only about 4 weeks later. So I didn't get to know him nearly as well as I would have liked. But you know, I can tell you that I certainly spent a lot of time in the rehearsal room. I had many meals with him. You know, having lunches, and I remember that was a really dreadful winter. Tons of snowstorms. I think we had like 18 that year. That was the winter of 1995. And I remember having snowball fights with him and Daffy Vega and Rep. And he was just a really sweet, humble but confident guy. You know, like I said, it was devastating when he passed away. But my sadness was really much more for his family, for his parents, the child, because I didn't know him long enough to really make a strong, you know, sort of brotherhood connection.
Fair enough. And moving from sort of the sad part of this, Rent had been a part of your life even beyond Broadway. You've toured with it, in fact, to foreign countries like Japan and South Korea. They did the Rent on tour or on Broadway tour thing. There must have been, I mean, when you're doing that show, which is so specifically New York of a certain era, was there any kind of comical disconnect of playing it for people who are in Osaka or Seoul?
Well, what's interesting, I've been to Japan a number of times, a number of different types of films. You know, they are so into Western culture and musicals, and I got to be honest with you, I don't know how much of it they understand. Well, I shouldn't say that, because they learn the shows in Japanese. So you know, before you get there, they're already such a fan of the show, and they've learned it in their own native language. So they don't necessarily understand it literally at the moment it's being performed in front of them, but they know what the song, you know, what's being said, and you know, so they're very keyed into the material, and so they respond at the jokes, you know, even though they might not necessarily understand every word being said at the time. They respond emotionally at the songs, you know. So the bad parts of the show, they get sad and they tear up and they cry. And they're an amazing audience. The most interesting thing I recall is that, you know, before a show starts, you're standing backstage waiting to go out and start the performance. There's lots of chatter and excitement and noise coming from the audience. You know, people are milling about, they're talking, they're, you know, whatever it is. There's lots of life coming from the audience, and the lights go down and everything's quiet. When you're in before the show starts. Nobody is talking. There's no chatter. There's no life going on out there. It is just complete silence. People sit in silence and wait for the show to start, which was rather unnerving. If you don't look out there, you think there's nobody out there.
Well, also, if the show is a horrible bomb, they're used to a horrible bomb going off, so they're real quiet. Just kidding.
Good point. And actually, they're used to, and this happened, they are used to, the occasional earthquake happening. And so there was actually one time in one of the performances when we were in Tokyo, where an earthquake happened while we were on stage. And somehow I was oblivious to it, but it was at a moment in the show where, towards the end of the show, it was during the number Take Me, where Joanne and Maureen are singing to each other, and the rest of us are just sitting there watching them. And all of a sudden, I hear people start whispering, and I see people looking around and looking up, and I had no idea what was going on. And they stopped the show, they call everybody off stage, and I was like, what is that? What's going on? Why are you stopping? It was an earthquake, and they the whole audience looking up and looking around, and I had no idea what was happening. But there was an earthquake during the show. But they're so used to that kind of thing that they didn't clear the theater. They let it finish.
They're handing everybody an umbrella, and they said, there's a little debris.
They let it finish. Yeah. Everybody took a deep breath. We went back out on stage and continued the show. It was pretty fascinating.
Now, what are some funny, weird things that have happened to you, or either on stage to the cast or in the audience when you've been in not just Rent, Adam Pascal, but in all these other shows that we mentioned that you have been in?
Yeah, well, look, on stage, I don't think that there's a show that I've ever been in where I haven't fallen on my butt at some point in the performance. So that's, whenever I go into a show, I'm sort of waiting for that to happen. At what point is it going to happen? It generally always happens. I remember doing a performance of Cabaret, and Cabaret at Studio 54, one of the things that they did, and I think that they still do, depending on the production, is that they, it was set up as an actual cabaret. So the whole the front half of the theater were little cabaret tables. So people sat at little tables and they were served drinks. And so a lot of people would come during matinees and who were not used to drinking alcohol during the middle of the day. And they would sit there and they would drink and they would party. And they would drink too much. And there was one particular performance that one of the matinees where somebody got sick and vomited all over the table. And so in the middle of the performance, in the middle of one of my songs, I sort of see out of the corner of my eye, everyone get up from the table and go, whoa! And because somebody had just vomited all over the table.
Vomit makes the cast go away, I'm kidding.
Yeah, exactly. But it was very good because they obviously knew how to handle it. The house people knew how to handle it because they never stopped the show. And they were able to keep everything as quiet as possible and clean it up. So that was a funny one. People are always, sometimes people have fights with each other. I can't remember exactly what show I was in, but there was, people that got into huge arguments with each other and started screaming at each other. I remember we did that on the national tour of Something Rotten. Played at Starlight, which is an outdoor theater in Kansas City, and they had to stop the show because of lightning. There was a lightning storm, and so they stopped the performance, and they actually canceled the rest of the performance because of the lightning storm. So there's a lot of interesting things happen when you live theater, and the audience, I think, unless it's an earthquake or lightning, they generally tend to really appreciate that kind of stuff because they feel like they're part of a special performance where so and so happened the night that they were there. If I've certainly gone up on my lines many times, forgotten lines, forgotten lyrics of songs, and again, audiences kind of it's a little bit of an anecdote for them to tell, like, oh, I saw that show, and also so and so happened the night that I was there.
Right, because 8 shows a week, it happens over and over again, but they have that one night in the whole history of the universe that bum happened.
Exactly, yeah. The night I was there, it was an earthquake, so they get an extra little special anecdote.
Now, you were coming out of Rent, for which, by the way, you were Tony nominated, Mazel Tov, and in fact, you were Drama Desk nominated as well. You won a Theater World Award for that. You come out of that, you got the world is your oyster, as it were, and yet you figured, now let me do the rock music again, as opposed to going directly, on a theater track, yeah?
Well, yes and no. I mean, the next thing I did was Aida. There was a big, there was a break in between Rent and Aida. And actually, right after Rent on Broadway, I went to London and I opened the show in London for about 6 months. But then I came back, and look, everybody in the original cast of Rent, the show became so big, so successful. Everyone used that as their springboard to whatever it is they wanted to do in their career. And I came into the show with sort of getting a record deal and playing in a rock band. And so when I finished in Rent, I still had that in my head. And so I was hoping that this would be my springboard to a nice big record deal and and a career in rock music. And that didn't happen. And that just, for whatever reason, that still had eluded me. I think that the record industry looked at me now and thought, well, this guy's a musical theater guy. What do we do with him? Ironically enough. And so, I still struggled with that. And but I had a band and I played lots of shows, but it just wasn't happening. And then along came this opportunity. I didn't know if I wanted to continue to do theater, but the next thing that was presented to me was this Elton John musical. And having been and still am a massive Elton John fan, it just seemed like the next logical step for me. And so it was another combination of rock and roll and theater.
I just think it's kind of fun because you mentioned in other places that one of your favorite bands is Queensryche. And it's sort of hard to balance those two. Elton John, Queensryche. And yet,
that's true. They don't necessarily connect.
Yeah, kind of like Lou Reed and Metallica. And yet sometimes it happens,
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so that was a great next logical step to go in.
Now, please tell me that you have an Elton John story.
I do have an Elton John story. Elton, there's a moment in the show where it's called My Strongest. It's a big production number that is modeled after like a fashion runway show. And so when we were at our out-of-town tryout in Chicago, the music that was accompanying that number was pre-recorded. I don't know why they decided to do that, but they pre-recorded that particular number. And so Elton hated that idea, and he always said, I don't want this to be pre-recorded. I want them to be orchestra playing. I want people to play. And for whatever reason, they didn't heed to his desire. And so when we were on Broadway in our preview, or it might even have been after we opened, but I think it was after, he came to one of the performances, and it comes to that number, and the music is still pre-recorded, and he freaks out, and he gets up, and he storms out of the theater. And so, but when Elton gets up and storms out of the theater, it's Elton and his entire entourage of 20 people. And you know what theaters are like. You can't just, you can't subtly get up and walk out of the aisle in the middle of the performance. It causes a huge kerfuffle. The seats are so small, the seats are so tight, people have to get up and let you out.
It happens to me every Saturday at my sermons in the shul. Believe me, it's so annoying.
Get up and leave.
Yeah.
So it caused this huge thing, which ended up being in the New York Post the next day that Elton got stormed out of Aida. So it caused a big to-do. But I will say in his defense, he came back the next night and he came around to my dressing room and to Heather Henson's dressing room and to Sherry Renee Scott's dressing room. And he apologized personally to each one of them for his behavior. And I thought that was an incredibly gracious thing to do.
Well, we are talking to the very gracious and graceful Adam Pascal, who, by the way, or not by the way, you must go see him on Thursday night, July 18th at the Green Room 42, which I believe is on 42nd Street. It would be kind of dumb if it weren't. The Green Room 42. He's doing two shows, the 7 o'clock and the 9:30. Are you doing the same set list? Are you varying? What are people going to see when you do the show?
Well, this is a show that I've been wanting to do for a long time. And it really is a literal retrospective which I'm performing a song that wasn't a song of mine in the show, but it is a song from the show. So it really is, a retrospective of all of that. And people have been asking me that for a long time, and I've always been not resistant to it, but I haven't gotten to putting that set together. So it is going to be the same show, the 7 and the 9:30 show. And, I talk about each show before the song, and I open up the 1 or 2 questions from the audience. So I think it's a much more intimate and interactive type of performance than people have usually seen.
Is it just you on guitar, or do you have a couple of other people, or what?
It is just me on guitar.
Cool. Now, you mentioned that, your rock music career didn't quite happen the way you expected or hoped. You do have some albums out, correct?
I do, yeah. I have some solo albums out. I have 3. They're available on iTunes. 2 solo records and one called Me and Larry, Blinding Light. And I'm also on lots of cast recordings and compilation CDs. So if you just go to iTunes, you type in my name, a whole bunch of things.
Well, I'm kind of curious, what are 1 or 2 songs that you have written that you are the most proud of, you feel are your best work?
There's a song called I'm With You, which is on my second solo record called William. And I think that's probably the best, in my opinion, the best song I've ever written. And it's a song that was written about becoming a father right after 9/11.
Whoa.
That was an incredible experience, and it was a very frightening, experience at the same time. And, because obviously, as we all know, the world changed dramatically on that one day.
Well, since you bring it up, where were you, at 10 to 9 that morning?
I was watching TV at my house in Mount Vernon in Westchester, and I sat, with television for probably 18 hours watching the coverage of the attack, and it affected me to this day. I have felt the effects of watching that, watching all of that footage to this day. I'm still on a heavy dose of antidepressants from having witnessed that for 18 hours.
Are you joking, or no?
No, I'm not joking.
Oh, wow, okay. So did you have those kinds of issues even before 9/11, and that just brought them to?
I did, and I really do think I have PTSD, and I think a lot of people who witnessed all of that and watched all of that. How could you not? It's like soldiers at war witnessing the horrors that they witnessed and coming back with PTSD. Well, people who sat there on television and watched these horrors happen in front of their eyes, hour after hour. I don't see how you could not suffer PTSD.
Yeah, I mean,
I certainly have.
And they now show the videos, they airbrush out the people who are jumping from the windows to their deaths. But back when it was live,
Unfortunately for me and millions of others, that wasn't airbrushed out when I was watching.
Wow, that's now I'm going to need some antidepressants. Oh my God, let's do something happier. Mostly you've done either the rock music or as a matter of fact, people can even see you in the movie School of Rock because you had a band. By the way, was that a real band or a band created for School of Rock, the No Vacancy thing?
That was a band created for the movie, but I did all the vocals, for the band.
Cool.
So that's actually me singing, but the band was casted with actors.
Right, but the other thing I wanted to is, even though you haven't done much in the way of film, you were in a movie that is now called Falling Star.
Yeah.
But it had a different name.
Yes, it was called Goy Band.
Goy Band!
Goy Band, yeah.
Tell us about this film.
Yeah, this film was written by, and I'm sorry I can't remember, but he was an Israeli writer, and he wrote this film about this ex-boy band rock star who is down on his luck and has not had a flourishing career after the breakup of the boy band. And he gets a job performing at one of the kosher Jewish capsule resorts that don't exist anymore. But like Kutsher's. I've actually gone to Kutsher's a number of times in my life.
Yes.
But for those of people who don't know, and I'm sure there's not many of them in your podcast, but for many years, the 60s, 70s, and the 80s, there were many resort hotels up in the capital area that catered to the Jewish community, and all the food was kosher, and it was predominantly Jews who went to these hotels. And so he gets a job at one of these hotels, and obviously he's not a Jew. And it's a very much a sort of fish out of water tale. And we actually shot it at a non-working ex,
a former country club. Yeah.
Yes. I don't remember which one it was. But these hotels were fascinating. They were sprawling and they were beautiful and they were all self-contained. A giant pool of tennis courts, restaurants, and people would come there with their families. It was a unique experience for the Jewish community. Anyway, the movie was a lot of fun. And very, a lot of fun to do because I connected with so much of it. So many of the references, and so many of the situations that the characters put in. I connected with so much of them.
Well, we're talking, we have just a couple more minutes with Adam Pascal, and one thing people, I'm sure, always want to know is, like, when you're in such an amazing, pressurized but remarkable thing like the original Rent, it becomes so iconic that people want to know, how often are you in touch with the other cast members of the show?
Well, Anthony Rapp and myself are still very close, and I'm in touch with him quite often because we do a lot of performances together. So we do sort of a double bill show where we go out and we each do our own individual set, and then we do songs together at the end of the show. We do a whole sort of like 20-minute Rent section at the end of the show, and we've been doing that for a number of years. And I just did one with him a few months ago. We tend to do about 10 shows a year, sometimes 20 shows a year together. So I see him quite often, and I'm very in touch with him. Jesse Martin and myself are still very much in touch. He is in Vancouver shooting a TV show, but we speak a lot and we text a lot, and he and I have been very close for many years. So I would say that those two guys are the ones that I'm most in touch with.
And by the way, we've had Wilson Germain Heredia on this program, and your old girlfriend, Daphne Rubin-Vega, she was on the show many years ago. So it's sort of old home week here on Dave's Gone By as well. So, but you all, even if it's a Christmas card sort of, or a Hanukkah card, I should say, email, you keep in touch even with the other people, yeah?
We do, and there was just that Rent Live performance that happened several months ago, and they reassembled the original cast, a special cameo at the end of the show, and it was such an amazing experience for the 15 of us to get back together. 14 of us, Kristen and Kelly, not able to attend, but it was such an amazing experience for both of us to get back together and see each other and reconnect. It was like, it was like a family reunion. Like, I've seen a lot of people for many years, but it's like no time has gone by in that interim when you get back together. So it's really a wonderful experience to get that.
Do you think it's possible that there might be, for one-off concerts and benefits kind of, you'll still be occasionally doing Roger, like in your 60s?
I would never say never to anything. I find it highly unlikely. But, I would never say never.
Well, let me remind people one more time that you can go see Adam Pascal live, singing with his guitar directly to you from the stage of the Green Room 42. That this is happening one night only, but twice on that night. Thursday, July 18th. There's a 7 o'clock show, there's a 9:30 show. So those of you with children do the 7. Those of you who have lives, go do the 9:30. But either way, go see Adam Pascal. And the other question is, where will we be able to see you either on stage or in a film over the next weeks or months ahead? What's on your schedule?
Well, right now I'm sort of trying to spend some time at home with my family. We have a summer vacation coming up. So these shows that I'm doing back east, I have a number of them. Obviously the ones you mentioned in New York City. I'm playing some other ones up in Saratoga and Long Island. So I have a bunch of these shows coming up. And then that's it. I'm taking it easy for the summer, and then I'll see what happens in the fall. So nothing in the immediate future other than.
Now, you mentioned Mount Vernon before. Aren't you in LA, or did you move from there?
I in LA, and we used to live in Mount Vernon, right on the border of Mount Vernon and Bronxville. And so we were there for a number of years before we moved down here.
So much of what you do is on the East Coast, though. Does it still make sense to stay in Los Angeles, or are you getting enough work in TV film that, better stay there?
I just do a lot of traveling. When I come back from Broadway, I usually help out an apartment. And so, look, even if I lived in New York, I would still be doing a ton of traveling because a lot of my work is around the country and different, doing these live shows in different cities. So, but we decided, all those years ago to Los Angeles to try and see what it's like living out here, and we just decided we really loved it out here. Weather, my kids loved it out here, so we stayed. Jews need to complain, and if you're in LA, there's not that much to complain about except traffic. I don't know how you manage. I find plenty of things to complain about. Don't worry.
Oh, good. See, you're still Jewish underneath. The God thing will work on, but the culture you still have.
I'm carrying the mantle.
Well, everybody, we have been delightfully carrying the bima that Adam Pascal has been on. Go see him on July 18th at Green Room 42. Adam Pascal, it just remains for me to thank you so much for being so much fun and delightful in the Daverhood, and shalom to you.
Shalom to you. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. We're going to leave you with one more. Kiss today goodbye, the sweetness and the sorrow. Wish me luck the same to you, but I can't regret what I did for love, what I did for love.
Adam Pascal there, What I Did for Love. And we certainly do this show for love and a bunch of other reasons. This show being Dave's Gone By with me, Dave Lefkowitz, every Saturday from 9 until noon-ish here Eastern Time, by the way, in the Daverhood, our Facebookio podcastio programmio of the stream. So this is our 703rd episode of the program. Remember that you can listen to a bunch of the other ones. In fact, almost every episode we've ever done. So it's like 700 previous ones at davesgoneby.com. It's also a place to see photos. It's also to read about the history of the show, but mainly it's our archives. So all the interviews that we've done, almost every single episode that you can either download or stream right on your computer at davesgoneby.com. And remember that you can drop me an email. Let me know what you like about the show, suggestions, shout-outs, all of that. davesgoneby@aol.com is the way to do that. Or, of course, you can message me right here on our Facebook page, facebook.com/davesgoneby. And it occurs to me that's something that you guys can do to help the show, because I always say, tell your friends about it, tell your family, tell people you know, your colleagues and coworkers, hey, if you're free on Saturday morning, give a listen to this show. You might enjoy it, or watch the show in the archives. But as Joyce was telling me, another thing you can do if they are on Facebook is get them to watch the show and then invite other people. Do a watch party. It's a really great way to get more and more folks involved in the show, to let them know if they don't know about Dave's Gone By. Say, hey, I'm watching this. Come join me. We'll have a party. We'll post our comments about it. We'll make fun comments or snarky comments or whatever you want to do. And that could be a real way of building our audience, which is what we're really doing here in the Daverhood with me, Dave Lefkowitz, my darling and adorable wife, Joyce, and of course, all of you. Thank you for tuning in and all the messages. We have a whole long list, because I don't see everybody who tunes in, especially at the various watch parties and stuff. I see just who posts here and kind of shows up, but I don't see the dozens of people, their names. So I don't mention you when I say, hey, Art Paul, hey, Wayne, hey, Robert, hey, Tony, hey, Philip, hey, Bonnie, hey, who else? Tom. Oh, Tom, my gosh, from Greeley, and Cynthia, and Oh, I can't scroll up even that much. Rick and Nancy and Lynn and Trevor from my old radio station, Steve and Gary and Gina and Jeffrey and Karen. These are just really just a dollop of all the folks who are listening, and I wish I could name all of you. I'm going to try and get a list together before the end of the show and really read them out and say hi. But anyway, what do we have left in this 703rd episode of Dave's Gone By? Well, we do have our Colorado Limerick of the Damned to do. Oh, thank you, babe. And for Cheraw, Colorado, we'll have a poem about that. But before then, since we've been talking to Adam Pascal about his shows on Broadway that he's been doing and will continue to do, this leads very nicely into our next segment that we do every week, because I do love me some theater and like to go inside Broadway. Inside Broadway, a look at theater on and off Broadway and beyond. Brought to you by Total Theater and Performing Arts Insider. Curtain going up. Inside Broadway we go, because I do love to talk about the theater. I'm a theater critic and journalist and playwright, and so I love to tell you what the news is of the Rialto, because it's not like movies and television shows and pop music where you get that information coming at you from a zillion different places all the time. Here it's like, hey, you ought to know. This is what's happening in the biggest area of commercial theater almost in the world, unless you count the West End, and certainly in New York, Broadway. So I'll just give you some info. For example, well, here's the deal. I will say this, most of the news this week on Broadway is not good. It's a lot of bad news. Someone died, and also it's still post-Tony's and into the summer doldrums, the time when the tourists are coming to the set shows that they go to. The New Yorkers are out of town. People aren't doing that much. And if shows were struggling a bit, or even if they were doing okay for a while, but they don't have a lot of advanced box office bookings, they look at their upcoming future and they go, nope, not going to happen. It's time to fold up shop. Well, a bunch of shows have been doing this in the past month since we've had the Tony Awards. And now another Broadway musical has announced that it is leaving Pretty Woman. Pretty Woman, the musical, with a score by Bryan Adams, book by J.F. Lawton and the late Gary Marshall, adapting Marshall's screenplay for his very, very popular Richard Gere, Julia Roberts movie. It looked like a critic-proof hit, because the critics were like, kind of mad, this is all right, and Samantha Barks is a real find playing that Vivian character. There's Samantha barking in the distance. Give her some corn chips. So, and people were liking it. And this show, 4 times it broke records. It broke now. It broke records at the Nederlander box office, right? So you figure, hey, this show's doing all right. It's making $1 million a week. But then it wasn't as much. And so now, this show about a call girl and a rich client that become emotionally attached eventually. Tried out at the Oriental Theater in Chicago back in March of 2018. Well, it's going to close. They're closing it August 18th after 27 previews and 421 regular performances. So it sounds like it's a lot, 400, but it's really been running just a year on Broadway. I imagine not enough time to even make its money back. It is probably going to close a bit in the red. So it's officially a flop. But let's hear what the press agents are saying about the show. The folks who rep the show are not going to say, hey, didn't make our money back and it had the original cast and they've left and now it's, no. They're reminding people that it is, first of all, the longest running new musical of the 2018-19 season, the previous season. So no other musical of that season has run as long by the time this one will close. It also broke the box office record 4 times, and it is a 3-time Audience Choice Award winner. That's an award thing that's put on by Broadway.com. So if you want to see Pretty Woman on Broadway. You have a little over a month left to catch it at the Nederlander Theater over on West 41st Street. And I mean, there's an upside and a downside because Broadway is cyclical. That's the point. There's healthy times, there's more fallow times, but there's turnover now. One of the problem with Broadway sometimes is that that shows hold on to these theaters not for months the way they used to, but for years. And then you get shows clogged in the pipeline that can't come in because there's no theaters to go into. They're all booked. So we're getting a real shakeout this particular summer of 2019 on Broadway. For example, King Lear is going to be closing. It was only a limited run in the first place, but it was supposed to run until August. Instead, it's closing this weekend. It's the King Lear at the Court Theater. It's this English production directed by Sam Gold. The big drawing card here is, again, the return of Glenda Jackson to Broadway. Now, last year, she was in that marvelous revival of Three Tall Women. So everybody's like, oh my God, Glenda Jackson on Broadway. Wow, wow, wow. Well, now she's back playing King Lear in a production that some people like it a lot. Most people don't. It's kind of modernized. It's got some interesting ideas, but it's also weird and violent and some really eccentric portrayals of characters. I think there's some good work in there by Elizabeth Marvel. Jane Houdyshell, she's a good actress, but I think she's kind of miscast as Gloucester. It's all over the place. A lot of people liked Ruth Wilson. She was Tony nominated for playing both the Fool and Cordelia, the daughter who gets screwed in the whole King Lear thing. She didn't do anything for me. Sorry. Anyway, it was not a beloved production. Didn't get any Tony nominations at all, I think. So if you are curious, though, I really set it up. I really plugged it, haven't I? But if you want to see for yourself, King Lear on Broadway with Glenda Jackson, it is at the Court Theater for just 2 more days, today and tomorrow. Now, on the other side of the coin, I think one of the best plays written in the past decade is closing tomorrow. It's The Ferryman. I've talked about it before on this show, of course. And that is over at the Bernard Jacobs Theater on West 45th Street. It is ending its extended run tomorrow. So this was a show that was only supposed to come in for a couple of months and lasted since October of last year. It is just a brilliant, epic play in the realm of John Millington Synge and Sean O'Casey. This Irish family, the dad was involved in the IRA for a while, but he stepped away from the violence.
Who wasn't?
Well, I have a couple of IRAs still in the bank.
You do.
Yeah, they're doing okay, actually. They're non-violent completely. They're not making me violently rich, unfortunately, but again. So, Fairman, he's got this family now. He has a wife who's been under the weather for months, unless she barely comes down from upstairs,
What's her
doesn't do
name?
much. I've forgotten the names of the characters at this point. He's also got sister-in-law who he obviously likes, and she obviously likes him, but he's still married, and they've never found her missing husband. Where did he go? Except in the beginning of The Ferryman, his body turns up. Joyce says he's in Trenton, New Jersey. His body turns up, and that's what sets all these horrors into motion.
I want to know this.
Loud so they can hear you.
What's the ferryman reference? Is it Don't Pay the Ferryman, the ferryman of death?
I guess it has to do of going from one state to the other, of like the river Styx or something. I don't really know.
Ferryman and hell? I mean, I don't. That's what I'm asking. I don't know.
I do believe they mention it is referenced in the play, but it's a 3.5-hour play, and I don't remember all of it, even though I saw it twice. But I would see it a third time gladly, even though it's long, even though there's a lot to take in. It is just really terrific, brilliant playwriting from a fellow named Jez Butterworth. If you saw him on the Tony Award, winning for writing the best play of the year, deservedly, crediting his wife, the way I credit Joyce, for, well, she gave him the idea for the play. It was someone in her family.
That's called plagiarism.
There's nothing plagiaristic about it. She gave him a little story from her family, and he spun that.
I hope she's getting half the profit.
I'm sure she is. I'm sure they are. but he deserves everything he gets. It's a playwright I've never really liked, but oh boy, he goes into a whole nother level with The Ferryman. Won Best Play and Best Director also for Sam Mendes. Go see it. I beg of you. You have until tomorrow to catch this modern instant classic on Broadway. I want to give you a little bit of sad news, sad news, as opposed to a show just closing, that the Broadway and opera world especially lost Spiro Malus. He died about 2 weeks ago on June 23rd, but the news just came out this week. Spiro Malus, really known to Broadway people only for one show, but it was a pretty big show of the time. It was a revival of the Frank Loesser operatic musical, The Most Happy Fella. And this was a fairly controversial production about 25 years ago, because Joe Sullivan Loesser allowed it. She was the widow, and she said, okay, you can do it this way. And it was
abusive from the widow? Someone took advantage of her?
No, but they wanted to do it instead. I mean, this was an opera, and they decided to do it on Broadway, backed by just 2 pianos. No violins, no oboe, no trumpet, no nothing. Just 2 piano orchestration accompaniment for a Broadway musical. And of course, lots of people missed the sound of a true orchestra accompanying this show, which has, Standing on the Corner, and Joey, and other songs like that. But at the same time, the story took hold, and Spiro Malus was really, really good as this middle-aged, kind of frumpy, ugly man who sends away for a mail-order bride. She shows up, he falls in love, she falls into the family, kind of has eyes for the field hand, and it goes on from there. So that's The Most Happy Fella. But Spiro Malus, great voice, really good, but much more known, of course, as an opera star. He was a baritone. Not that any baritones actually become stars in the opera, but he was discovered initially by Dame Joan Sutherland. And, there's nothing like a dame. She toured with him in London and Chicago and Sydney before he made it to the Met and played in the Metropolitan Opera in La Fille du Régiment, as well as Barbara Seville and Tosca and Lulu, so pretty far afield in what he could do vocally and operatically. We say farewell to Spiro Malus, who died at the age of 86 2 weeks ago. His condolences to his wife and his 2 kids. Spiro Malus leaving opera and Broadway, but not folks who love both. Hey, speaking of
leaving, but also remembered forever in the music and the work.
Get yourself a cast album.
Leaving the physical plane, but not leaving
the spiritual, musical, creative realm. Now, speaking of all of the creative stuff that goes into Broadway, how can I not remind you again? We talked about this before when I was mentioning Richmond Shepard. So yeah, the magazine, at least for a while, goes on. Performing Arts Insider, the Bible of Broadway. Since 1944, this has been the place that people in the entertainment industry, how do I do this there? In the entertainment industry, turn to these pages to find out all the information about every single show on, off, and off Broadway. Now, I came into this magazine, oh my gosh, about 18 years ago, when Richmond Shepard, the late Richmond Shepard, he was editing it and publishing it, and he wanted help, he wanted to let go of it. He brought me on as co-publisher, and I've been kind of running it ever since. And I think doing a pretty good job. One of the things that Richmond would always tell me when we would talk on the phone or he would see me is how proud he was of how the issue looked and how much info was in there, and how I kind of helped beef it up. I'm not just saying that to blow my own horn. I'm trying to blow the horn of this journal. Let's page through it real quick. Hey, here's a list of all the shows still running from previous seasons, opening this coming season, opening in the season ahead. Here's a map of the Broadway Theater District. Here's table of contents, so you know what's in the magazine. Here's a list of all the theaters on Broadway, how many seats they have, what their address is, what shows are in them, and for how long. Okay, that's the next page. Next page, guide to all the press agents. These are the folks who handle all the Broadway shows. How they get the press in them. They promote the shows. They do stunts to get people to see the shows. These are their addresses, their phone numbers, their email addresses, and the shows that they're handling. And now, really, we get to the important part of the magazine. Day by day, what is happening on Broadway? What shows are starting previews, opening, and closing on the Great White Way? What theater they're in, who owns the theater, what address, what press agent is handling the show, and the dates for the show. So, for example, let's see, we're here. It's July. What's happening? Well, oh my God, we've got a show to mention that's closing tomorrow. A couple of more shows that are closing tomorrow. But Dave Chappelle is starting this week on Broadway at the L'Enfant Theater for his 2-week stint. And after that, Burn This will be closing in a week. You do have, at the very end of July, a major Broadway musical opening. If you want to know what it is, get Performing Arts Insider and flip to this page. Or if you want the same exact thing for all the shows off Broadway, we have that calendar listing too. And then, of course, we get to, well, oh yeah, and don't forget, our rumor page. Look at these shows that may come to Broadway in the months and years ahead. That's a special feature of Performing Arts Insider, as is the guide to every single show on, off, and off Broadway, in depth, with all the people listed, contact information for them, the dates, the theaters, all the info. Performing Arts Insider 21 times a year, or it's a little cheaper, obviously, if you get the monthly edition 12 times a year. How do you get it? Go to performingartsinsider.com. That's the website. Now, the magazine itself is hard copy. You know, we don't put the magazine online. You got to buy it, get it in the mail, read it the old-fashioned, wonderful way. While there's still print magazines out there, Mad Magazine is going under, ladies and gentlemen. After 76 years, Mad Magazine is calling it 76 years, really bad. Well, yeah, it's going away, man. They're going to still print special issues, and they're going to reprint older stuff, kind of like the Village Voice, but that's going. Performing Arts Insider stays put, still here. And the only way we can keep it still going is if more people subscribe. So go to performingartsinsider.com. And the people who do subscribe, basically they renew over and over again until they die, because it's the only place that they can get all this wonderful information. You can also get a copy of it in Theater Circle bookstore in Midtown Manhattan, or send away for a single issue. You can do that at performingartsinsider.com. It is and remains the Bible of Broadway. And of course, we dedicate this episode and this Inside Broadway to our great friend who brought me into this magazine, the late Richmond Shepard, former publisher of PAI. Okay, anyway, let's move back to more of Inside Broadway on this July 6th, 2019 on Dave's Gone By. Want to say that, let's see, what else is ending? I should have said this. I thought I had listed this, but Ink, I forgot to note this down. But if you want to see a very entertaining play about how Rupert Murdoch and his hand-picked fella, Larry Lamb, speaking of print publications, saved one in some ways and damned it in some others, how they took the English newspaper The Sun and turned it into a moribund, staid daily newspaper, into something that people grabbed and it flew off the stands. Then you want to see Ink on Broadway. It stars Johnny Lee Miller. You know him from TV's Elementary, and the guy from Matilda is in there too, playing Rupert Murdoch. I think the show does a little too much. The director goes a little too far into gussying it up with song and dance numbers and cute little vignettes. Doesn't need that. It's an interesting, watchable tale just for what it is, a story of the newspaper business and the 60s and the 50s that it came out of. It's Ink. It's on Broadway. It's closing tomorrow. Okay, I wanted to let you know that. Hey, farewell to Max Wright. He died at the age of 75 after battling lymphoma, get this, for the last 24 years. He's had it for 24 years, Max Wright. Now, who is Max Wright? Who does that put into your head? Well, he is best known for playing the father, Willie, on the show Alf. Remember with that weird puppet with the penis nozzle? Yeah, now you know who I'm talking about. Yeah, and he also, I didn't remember this, but in the early seasons, he was the manager of the coffee shop in Friends on TV, but he had bunches of Broadway credits. For example, his first Broadway show, 1968 in The Great White Hope, starring opposite James Earl Jones and Jane Alexander. Not a bad intro to Broadway. He was in The Cherry Orchard in 1977, featuring Raoul Julia, Meryl Streep, Irene Worth, and Mary Beth Hurt. Not too shabby either. A year later, he was in a revival of Kaufman and Hart's Once in a Lifetime. And in that show, he won a Theatre World Award for essentially making a first impression on Broadway. In that cast, Jane Meadows, Steve Allen's wife, George S. Irving, that guy, that wonderful old actor who passed away a couple of years ago, who was doing Broadway and off-Broadway for about 70 years. John Lithgow, Treat Williams, Michael Jeter, and Julia Duffy, if you remember her from Newhart, all of them in that Once in a Lifetime. And then the big year, 1997, Max Wright was Tony and Drama Desk nominated for feature actor for playing Paul in Ivanov at a Lincoln Center theater production. He followed that doing Twelfth Night for Lincoln Center. He played Sir Andrew Aguchi opposite Philip Bosco, Helen Hunt, Brian Murray, Paul Rudd, and Kira Sedgwick. So yeah, when he actually did quite a few Broadway shows, and when he was in those casts were pretty terse. Anyway, Max Wright was married to his wife Linda from 1965 until she died 2 years ago. And then after that, he ended up having a relationship with his caretaker until his passing, until Max Wright's passing, a couple of days, or when did he die? It was a couple of days ago. Anyway, farewell in a theatrical way and also in an elf way to Max Wright. Farewell also, I told you it was mostly bad news, but to someone I knew personally. I can't say we were close friends, but we were certainly friendly acquaintances on the Rialto, Ward Morehouse III, who died at the age of 73 after a long illness. He was a guest on this program back in 2010. That was when he was already moving away from writing about theater and being a theater critic and journalist to writing about hotels. What a wonderful life he had, man, in the past decade or so. He would go to all these great hotels in Paris and London, man, and Spain, I guess.
Man like Cheech and Chong?
I don't know, man, but it's great, man. It's a great time, man, to do that, man, you know? But I know I'm saying man a lot, but it's true. That's what he would write books about these great old exotic marigold London hotel kinds of places.
Cool.
Yeah, which meant that he would travel. I assume he would travel mostly free and stay in these places for free and then write about them. Or he had a really cool nest egg because his father, Ward Morehouse II, was a very well-known Broadway pundit and Broadway columnist and writer. Well, Ward, that's what he was doing. He had written for the Christian Science Monitor for a while, and then when he came to my attention, when I was coming up through the ranks as a Broadway critic and then journalist, through the Shaba ranks, I was. He was writing at that point, I believe, for the New York Post. And he was getting called out a bit for making mistakes and occasionally sort of making things up. He wasn't a critic, really. He was a gossip columnist for Broadway. He was kind of like, so-and-so is thinking about doing a show on Broadway, and it wasn't really true. And he got called out on it by our...
Is it just a lie, or is it just a rumor?
A rumor with really nothing behind it. Let's put that face on it. Like, sort of almost starting a rumor, like almost asking an actor a question, are you thinking of doing this? And the actor hadn't heard of it before, and he said, well, the actor would say, well, yeah, if I would, if that came up, and suddenly that's a rumor.
So he generated. Well, he was the originator.
Yeah, I mean, he had
to be like an it person on the interwebs.
So, I mean, that's sort of the negative thing of Ward Morehouse, of why he lost his job. And it was either at the Daily News or the New York Post. Michael Riedel took over, and Riedel was a lot snarkier and a lot nastier, but he was also much more verified in what he was writing. You know, if he wrote it, it was a true thing. So, and eventually, of course, Riedel built his own sort of niche and empire doing that. But Ward went back to the old school. He didn't want to write nasty things about people. He just wanted to get people excited about Broadway, excited about people seeing shows and doing shows and what actor was dining at what restaurant. And he was a nice, friendly fella. I would see him, he had a certain old, rich person quality about him, even though I don't know if he was rich. Probably Ward Morehouse. Probably, Riddle has that quality too, but Morehouse just had it very, very naturally. And what else can I tell you about him? Yeah, he wrote a couple of plays. He actually co-wrote a play with Stuart F. Lane, the producer, and it was off Broadway, and it did pretty well. It ran a couple of months, and it was cute. It wasn't a great play, but it wasn't a terrible play either. So farewell to Ward Morehouse III, who passed away at the age of 73. If you want to hear again, if you're interested in his writing and who he was on our show back in 2010. Just go Morehouse, M-O-R-E, House, davesgoneby.com, and you can find his interview
What a
there.
great resource.
Oh, yeah, isn't it? Well, when you interview hundreds and hundreds of people, eventually, when they drop dead, we have value on this program. And by the way, it is noon. We've been here 3 hours, and we're almost done. Probably, we have a bit more to do here on Dave's Gone By.
David, like Justin Bieber, never say
Never say
never.
never. Well, it is July 6, 2019. It's the 703rd episode of the show. We've been calling it Pascal Lamb in honor of our guest in the Daverhood earlier, Adam Pascal. I'm Dave Lefkowitz. That's my darling and adorable wife, Joyce. We're in the middle still of Inside Broadway with a little more Broadway news for you. Oh my gosh, something that isn't depressing or sad. Something kind of happy. If you like jukebox musicals.
I'm a jukebox hero.
Yeah.
My stars in his eyes.
Well, there's going to be most likely another one because the truly legendary Neil Diamond has allowed his life story.
Put on your heart lights.
Is that the first song you think of with Neil Diamond?
Heart light.
Okay, no, come on. You know the real Neil Diamond song.
Roxanne.
No, that's not Neil Diamond. It's Sweet Caroline.
Doot, doot, doot. I like to drink some turpentine.
But yeah, if you like more Neil Diamond songs than you probably think you do. He wrote songs for the Monkees or that were covered by the Monkees. I think with Carole King. Then he didn't write that one, I don't think. Was it Daydream Believer or was one of those that he wrote?
I'm doing monkey dance.
But he's, maybe you haven't heard a Neil Diamond song in 40 years, but you certainly heard a bunch of them from the first 10 years of Neil Diamond's career. Well, his whole career and the panoply of his songs are now going to be licensed to a review, or it might be more a story bio musical. Anthony McCartan is going to be doing the book on that. Michael Mayer, a Broadway veteran, will be directing. Ken Davenport, he will produce, and he tends to get things produced. So he's on board with this project. And, by the way, the author, the book writer, McCartan, he wrote the script for the very popular... No, the Queen movie, Bohemian Rhapsody. So he might be just the right person to do this Neil Diamond retrospective bio musical. Remember, this is just in the planning stages. This is just to say, hey, Neil Diamond's on board. He's allowing them to use his songs just the way Carole King did, and Frankie Valli and the other guy in... You know what I'm talking about. Anyway. No, that's... Why do you keep saying Obama? There has not been a Richie Valens musical.
To me. Maybe I like La Bamba.
You can like La Bamba, and there was a movie. Anywho, got one more piece of news for you. And if you have not seen this revival of My Fair Lady on Broadway at Lincoln Center's Vivian Beaumont Theater, what the hell are you waiting for? It is magical. It is beautiful. It is not perfect, but it's still really, really great. And it's closing tomorrow. First of all, it's My Fair Freaking Lady. My favorite musical is Fiddler on the Roof, fine. And there are scores that I would rather listen to, most of them by Sondheim and a couple by Rodgers and Hammerstein, than before I would go pick My Fair Lady again. But it's still an incredibly great score. I could have danced all night. Why can't the English learn to speak? I've grown accustomed to her face. I'm sorry, what? I didn't hear.
You could have danced all night?
I could have danced. Me, no, I've got 3 left feet. I can't even dance for half of a morning. But Eliza Doolittle, she can dance all night. This is, of course, the musical based on George Bernard Shaw's Pygmalion that they turned into a show even greater than Pygmalion. It was the biggest hit on Broadway of its time and remains one of the all-time Broadway classic musicals. And, you know, I was skeptical when they decided to revive it. Because the last time they revived My Fair Lady on Broadway, I liked the actress in it, Melissa Errico, who was a guest in the Daverhood just a month or two ago.
Daverhood, that girl.
Yeah, it was with Richard Chamberlain. It was okay.
Richard Chamberlain.
And of course, the ones before that were excuses to get Rex Harrison doing Henry Higgins one more time. But now, this time, they brought it to Lincoln Center, and Bartlett Sher, who does just a wonderful job with old musicals, has done a glorious job with this My Fair Lady. Harry Haddon Payton is playing Higgins. Alan Cordiner is a very, very funny Pickering. Rosemary Harris, she's probably on stage for all of 20 minutes. The great old actress, Rosemary Harris, she is perfect as Higgins's mother. And of course, Laura Benanti, who is a Broadway goddess. She is Eliza Doolittle. I missed it when Lauren Ambrose opened the show about 1.5 years ago. She sang surprisingly well and was very, very, very good as Eliza. But Laura Benanti campaigned for this. Her heart was broken when she wasn't chosen initially to be the Eliza.
Why didn't they choose her?
They wanted to go with what Lauren Ambrose had to bring. You know, Lauren Ambrose from 6 Feet Under and a couple of other TV series that she did. And apparently she was really good. I mean, sometimes galvanizing for some critics. But Laura Benanti, obviously a Broadway actress meant to do this part. She's terrific in all possible ways. In the singing, in the comedy, in the looks. Laura Benanti, Liza Benanti. What? Not Liza Benanti. Laura Benanti. What?
What are you talking about? In the looks? What do you mean the looks?
Because she's got to look like a Cockney sort of nondescript flower girl, and then dress up even in gowns and look like a duchess, and she carries it off. And you
better be carrying it off. Even
go see my what? Okay, we're getting there. My Fair Lady on Broadway. I think I pushed the show enough. You will regret not seeing it if you don't go today or tomorrow, or today 2 times, or tomorrow at Lincoln Center Theater up on West 65th Street at the Vivian Beaumont Theater. So let's hear a bit of Laura Benanti with a demo recording of I Could Have Danced All Night from My Fair Lady. Let's dance together while this is playing.
Oh my God.
Bed, I couldn't go to bed. My head's too light to try to set it down. Sleep, I couldn't sleep tonight. Not for all the jewels in the crown. I could have danced all night. I could have danced all night and still have begged for more. I could have spread my wings and done a
Yeah, that's what she sings like, ladies and gentlemen. And My Fair Lady. And that, by the way, was Inside Broadway for this edition of Dave's Gone By Live here on this July 6, 2019. I say we're here every Saturday from 9 until noon or thereabouts. You know, when we came to New York, I thought I was going to make it a 2-hour show, right? So I could have time to finish the show, do a couple of things on the website, and then hit New York and go see a matinee or something. And yet here we are, still doing 3-hour plus episodes of the program, but I don't mind. It's our 703rd show. Hope you've been enjoying it. Are we done yet? Well, no, we still have our Limerick. We still have our Colorado Limerick of the Damned, which we'll get to after we do a segment that I do enjoy doing called Our Friends of the Daverhood. Let me start the music, and I'll tell you more about it. So yeah, like this week was pretty tough, or has been pretty tough, because I lost two friends of the neighborhood, two people who have been on this program in the past. My good friend Richmond Shepard, and also Ward Morehouse III, who was on this show in 2010. And so it's important to me. I'm just trying to, hold on, I'm going to lower this iTunes a little bit more, but I can't. I don't know why. iTunes, please stop. Oh, well, you'll just have to deal with that in the background. But, oh, there we go. Hold on there. Make this a little bit lower. There we go. So, losing people who've been in the neighborhood, that's why it's kind of important to me to talk about the folks who are still with us, still alive. They've appeared on Dave's Gone By in months and years past, and we say, hey, what are they doing now? What projects are they working on now? Because there are friends, there are family of the neighborhood. For example, I want to let you know that tonight, Leslie Jordan is doing his solo show Exposed at the Green Room 42. We've been mentioning that in conjunction with Adam Pascal. But Leslie Jordan, you know him, he's the little puckish gay actor guy from, well, who was in that Fox TV show with Carol, Vicki Lawrence. You know, something Kids, the Cool Kids, but he was best known, well, if you go Google Leslie Jordan, you'll know what I'm talking about. But see him tonight at the Green Room 42 in his solo show, Exposed. Now, through just tomorrow, if you go to the Irish Repertory Theater off Broadway and go see a very well-reviewed show called Yes, Reflections of Molly Bloom, that is by a woman whose father, Paddy Maloney, was on the program because he's an originating member of the band The Chieftains. Well, Paddy Maloney did the music for his daughter's solo show, Yes, Reflections of Molly Bloom. Kind of a little weird because I read the review and apparently, you know, it's all about Molly Bloom from James Joyce's Ulysses and her last monologue in the book, where she's essentially getting humped by her husband and all these things are going through her head until she finally has an orgasm in the last line. Apparently, Paddy Maloney's daughter has a moment of nudity where she drops her dress for a moment. It's like, I don't know how I'd feel about it if I were dad scoring the music for that. Like, what melody should I play for my daughter's nudity here? I don't know why I'm doing an English accent either. But anyway, you can hear Paddy Maloney's music for his daughter's show at Irish Repertory Theater. Yes, Reflections of Molly Bloom, playing through tomorrow. Now, starting today, and running all the way until September, there's a new musical called I Spy a Spy at St. Clement's Theater in Midtown Manhattan that will feature a set by our friend of the neighborhood, James Morgan, who runs the York Theater Company. Even though that's not a York Theater production, that's an independent thing, but he's doing the set for I Spy a Spy. Playing now through the end of the month. You can go see films by the late, films with music by the late composer Michel Legrand. These films are being curated by our recent friend of the neighborhood, the aforementioned Melissa Errico, and she'll be doing a talkback. Whoa. Why is that still playing? Oh dear. Oh no, let's get back to our Haydn. Gotta play a little more of that. Much better. I digress. Or I digressed and now I return. So, yes. Melissa Errico will do a talk back after one of the movies, but she is curating that whole weekly feature of various films which feature music by Michel Legrand. That is at the French Institute on East 60th Street. Go to FIAF for more information about that. Want to let you know that tomorrow afternoon, 1 o'clock, Yvonne Constant, speaking of French people, Yvonne Constant will be doing her cabaret show at the West Bank Cafe. On Monday, Donna McKechnie will be at the Bay Street Theater in a review called Hamlish and Sondheim. I don't know, I guess it's about Rodgers and Hammerstein songs. But Andrea McArdle will be with her as part of that show. Donna McKechnie from the original The Chorus Line at the Bay Street Theater on Monday. And also happening on Monday, I wish I could go to this. This is a benefit concert of Into the Woods, which is being done in New York. I don't, unfortunately, have the location for it, but it will feature our Tony-winning friend of the Daverhood, Alice Ripley, playing the witch. That's Into the Woods in concert in Manhattan. And a lot of other famous people in other roles in that. David Bromberg, his quintet, will be playing the Stephen Talkhouse in Amagansett on July 11th. Also, starting on July 11th and running through mid-August, Sip and Act. These are casual acting lessons and a meetup, for new actors, kind of a singles thing too, but also it's for people who are new to acting, want to try it out, want to see if they have any talent at all, or just have fun acting with other people. Thank you, Ben. Sip and Act, script in hand, where you learn to act, and it's being conducted and done by Catherine Russell of the Russell Acting Studio. And of course, Catherine Russell, she is the woman who has been in Perfect Crime for 1.5 million years. So they do these lessons on Thursdays and Saturdays at the Theater Center in Midtown Manhattan. La Chance is in the Atlantic Theater Company's production of The Secret Life of Bees. I mean, I get the feeling that this show will have a life beyond its off-Broadway home right now. So you might want to get to see it while it's still at the Atlantic. The Secret Life of Bees, featuring La Chance through mid-July. Also through mid-July, the solo show by David Cale, We're Only Alive for a Short Amount of Time, is at the Public Theater on Lafayette Street. So go see it. Yeah, so anyway, Hadestown on Broadway. That features our friend, now Tony winner, Andre DeShields.
He's awesome. That man is freaking awesome.
At the Walter Kerr Theater. Beautiful, the Carole King musical, since we're talking about biomusicals from that era. Douglas McGrath is the book writer on that show. Irene Sankoff and David Hein, they collaborated on the wonderful musical Come From Away on Broadway, now in its 3rd year. Tootsie at the Marquis Theater features a score by David Yazbek, and in the cast, our friend Julie Holston. So that's a double for us. To Kill a Mockingbird has Dakin Matthews playing the judge. That's at the Shubert Theater. Daniel Breaker is in a musical called Hamilton at the Richard Rogers Theater. Austin Pendleton. Oh, we have an Austin Pendleton alert. Oh, my goodness.
Excuse me.
Yes?
I think I was having an hallucination.
Yeah, we're mentioning Austin Pendleton because he's ubiquitous. He does everything. And he's in a show called Life Sucks off Broadway at the Acorn Theater. It's an adaptation of the of Chekhov's Uncle Vanya. You might want to check it out. So it's called Life Sucks at the Acorn in Midtown, featuring Austin Pendleton. Now, through an open run, as a matter of fact, this Monday, July 8th, Monday, July 15th, every Monday at Birdland, Jim Caruso's Cast Party. Evan Seplow is the founder and editor of StageBuddy.com. Dr. Demento still doing new and archiving the old Dr. Demento shows at drdemento.com. Leslie Hoban Blake and Charlie Gross co-hosting their theater review show 2 on the Isle on Manhattan Neighborhood Network. And remember, Charlie has his solo show coming up in October. I'll be telling you more about that in a while. But Eva Heinemann is doing... Well, yeah. Oh, I saw his show when he was developing that, my gosh, 10, 15 years ago. Yeah, how I found an affordable apartment and a car in Manhattan without really trying.
But the best thing is
Louder.
If we found a parking space.
In Manhattan. Well, it's the first time I've ever seen this. He keeps his bicycle on the wall of his apartment. There's a hook there, and he hangs it right up. So he doesn't have to keep it on the street. But anyway, Charlie, my good friend Charlie Gross, he has a theater review show that he co-hosts with Leslie Hoban Blake called 2 on the Isle.
2 on the Isle, boo-boo.
And you can also watch on Manhattan Neighborhood Network our great friend Eva Heinemann. Her show, High Drama, is on as well. And I want to remind you, of course, that Bob Cudmore does podcasts of upstate New York history at bobcudmore.com. David Kenny does his radio show, Everything Old is New Again, Sunday nights on WBAI Radio. And finally, Willard Manus, man. Willard Manus reviews shows out in Los Angeles.
Do you know what his name is?
What's that?
William the Man Manus.
We can call him the man. I should call him the man.
William the Man Manus.
Willard the Man Manus.
Or
Read
Manus.
his reviews.
Is he large?
Yes. TotalTheater.com is a place to read all the reviews of Los Angeles theater by Willard Manus. And those, my friends, are the friends of the Daverhood. Well, we're almost done. We're almost through with this episode of Dave's Gone By here in the Daverhood. We've done a lot about theater today, with Adam Pascal in the Daverhood. We've had a bit of fun of news, and old-timey nostalgic news, right? What else did we do today? What the hell else did we do today? We did our quiz, speaking of news and nostalgia. So, all of that, let's keep it cultural, though. I do love music. I do love theater. I don't like poetry as much, but I like poetry sometimes, especially when I'm writing the poetry, and I'm writing little 5-line verses about various towns and municipalities in Colorado. We call those the Colorado Limerick of the Damned.
A limerick is a comic verse of 5 lines, in which lines 1, 2, and 5 would end with words that rhyme. And likewise, verses 3 and 4 also end with words that rhyme. So this is a limerick. Rocky Mountain,
The voice of our friend of the Daverhood, Christine Lavin, ushering us into our Colorado Limerick of the Damned for this Saturday, July 6, 2019. So here's the deal. I just took it into my head many months ago to start writing little risque limericks about every possible town in Colorado that I could think of, because we've been residents of Colorado for about a decade. And we've been going through them letter by letter by letter. We're already up to the letter K, and yet this week I went poking through the towns in Colorado and realized that I missed one that I could work on. So most of these limericks I've already written weeks and weeks ago. This is brand new. This is brand new out of the head of Dave this week for a town called Cheraw. Cheraw. Some people call it Cheraw or Cheraw. It's in southeast Colorado. It was founded in 1917. Apparently, it is the smallest town in the world with a regimental band. Go figure. It also it has about 250 people in it, with a 56 to 44 female to male ratio. So guys, widows, horny 19-year-old guys, this is the place for you to go. Cheraw, Colorado. There is another Cheraw or Cheraw in South Carolina, which was named after the Cheraw Indian tribe there. So I don't know what connection the Colorado Cheraw has to it. All I know is I saw the name and I'm like, can I write a disgusting, horrible little poem about it? And yes, my friends, I think we can. So here it is for this July 6, 2019, our Colorado Limerick of the Damned for Cheraw, Colorado. How sad was that man from Cheraw, whose left hand was merely a claw? His only girlfriend met a terrible end. He hiccuped, unhooking her bra. That, my friend, is the Colorado Limerick of the Damned for today here on Dave's Gone By. And I can't think of a better way to end this program. Actually, I can. One thing I can do is thank people. Thanks so much. First of all, my darling, adorable, and wonderful wife, Joyce, who helps and get people to watch the program. Because let's face it, no one would without her help. But she's like busy inviting people and going up on Facebook and saying, please come, please watch this. My husband feels useless unless people are watching him do stuff. So thank you, my dear and darling wife, Joyce, for your help and support and your love, not only on July 4th, but you put fireworks in my heart all year round. which is why I feel heartburn. But so what else do I? Who else do I have to thank? Well, especially want to thank Rabbi Saul Solomon for doing the interview today. You can find out more about him by going to his website, shalomdammit.com. Shalom, D-A-M-M-I-T. Shalomdammit.com. That is a place to hear his interviews with lots of folks that he's interviewed on this program. Plus, you can read and hear his rabbinical reflections, his mini sermons. You can also watch the TV show that he did on Long Island Cablevision about 10 years ago called Shalom Dammit, Rabbi Saul Solomon's Peace, Love, and Acid Reflux Hour, which is only a half hour and I think quite hilarious. And most of all, you can even see an early version of his stage show, Shalom Dammit, An Evening with Rabbi Saul Solomon, taped at where else? The Richmond Shepard Theater. It's all there at shalomdammit.com, and you can also check his Twitter feed at Rabbi Saul Solomon. Want to thank even more than that for today, Adam Pascal, the actor, the singer, the musician. Adam Pascal.
What's his name? Shmuley?
Shmuel, that's right. Shmuley is Yiddish name.
As we
Pascal.
like to call him. Shmuel.
In the Daverhood. Remember to go see
Shmuel
him.
Monster.
July 12th, this week at Malloy College in Rockville Center, he'll be playing his show So Far is the name of it. He'll be in Northport.
Shofar.
That's, oh my God, I can't believe Rabbi Saul didn't think of that.
Yeah.
It should be called Shofar, not So Far. Oh, we should call him back. We need to call Adam Pascal back right now.
I think he's too busy singing in a lawyer at this moment.
Yeah, that could be. Anyway, the John W. Engelman Theater in Northport is where Adam Pascal will be on July 15th, and he will be at the Green Room 42 on Thursday, July 18th at 7 and 9:30 p.m. He's a marvelous guest. All three, Daphne Rubin Vega when she was on, Wilson Germain Heredia, and now Adam Pascal. Right, you know? Yeah, now we need to get some more of those people. We need to get, Adam Rapp and Idina Menzel. And,
That's
yeah. Well, they're all still with us. Yes, absolutely. Anyway, thank you so much to Adam Pascal, and thank you also to Jordy Frey and Dan Fortune, who were instrumental in helping get Adam Pascal on the program, and you know, they're the managers and press people who were letting this happen. So thank you, Dan, and thank you to Jordy as well. And by the way, big thank you. Now let me see if I can get through these, because I've been mentioning all the people tuning in, like Wayne and Robert and Karen and Jeffrey and Jolinda. Welcome to Jolinda and Art Paul. How about some of the folks that I may not have mentioned before, like Paul and Frank and Bruce? Oh my God, Bruce, man!
Brucey Bruce.
Tony and Parsifal.
Parsifal, that's so cool.
Wow, using persiflage to get in here, I see. And John and Diane from my library, and Ron and Tim, Christopher, Mark, JL, Julie and Albert and Jewel, our friend of the Daverhood, the costume and set designer, Rick and Ralph and Juan and Louis, who was either from my elementary school or my high school, Daniel and Louise. Louise. Yeah, Louise Ann, Stephen and Billy and Ira, Robert, Michael, Mark, Barbara from my library, Dennis, Brian. It's a little kind of pointless when you're not listing the last names for some people who have very common first names, but I think we mentioned JL already.
Matter.
Nancy and Trevor and Mark and Fred from Friendly, Ellen, Brian, our friend who always calls in on New Year's.
Brian.
Ellen, and of course Lauren, who takes part in our quiz. Michael, and oh my God, there's more.
Lauren, that's Lauren, Cynthia's daughter, Cynthia.
And Mike, the author of the young adult novel recently, and Wendy and Andrea, and David and Harlan, and Robert and David from my high school, and Alexander, Larry, Karen, Dennis, Mike, and Andrea. I probably said a couple of people over again, but oh my gosh, isn't that wonderful? It makes me feel, it might not mean much to you and might be a little dull when I read off all these names.
You make me feel oh so real. Do it.
You make me feel oh so real. No, because when I'm on terrestrial radio, when I was doing the show either on college radio or even on that Long Island radio station a while back, you didn't know. I mean, if you didn't take phone calls or nobody called in, you weren't sure if anybody was listening or maybe one family member or two people.
Papa, can you hear me?
That's right. Pop up, can you see me? But now I can go on and I can see these people tuning in and giving me thumbs up and hearts and emojis, or writing me messages, or just their names are coming up.
Isn't it fun?
And it makes me feel like I'm connecting. And it brings a whole energy to a show that was today 3.5 hours long.
Good God.
Difficult. But guess what? We have more Dave's Gone Bys coming up. As a matter of fact, we'll be here next week, July 13th.
You know, I could
God
have
willing.
this show, I could cover you in the potato cave.
Do we have that here? Yes! You want to? No, save it for next week. So I'll have
Okay.
something special to wear. Yes. And then I don't want to, I hate making promises of things that aren't pre-recorded, but I'm going to make this promise because it is all set up that on July 20th, so not next Saturday, but Saturday, July 20th, speaking of Broadway divas and talented triple threat kind of Broadway women who can sing and dance and act, and also a tall and supremely hot drink of water, this woman is. My life is if you saw her back in the day in Will Rogers' Follies, you know that Katie Huffman is something else. Well, Katie Huffman, Broadway. Oh gosh, we're our live video. Just did you disconnect my Facebook right now? Because I was talking about Katie Huffman. I'm kidding, but apparently it's trying to reconnect. I may have lost a lot of people. Also, we're pushing like the 3.5 hour mark. So anyway, Katie Huffman going to be in the Daverhood talking about the Will Rogers Follies, talking about being in the producers with Nathan Lane and Matthew Broderick and all the other shows that she's been doing. That happening 2 weeks from today. Well, I can see by the circle going around and around. It is time to end my time in the Daverhood here on Dave's Gone By. This has been Dave Lefkowitz wishing you a most happy post 4th of July, wishing good health and love to you, wishing you to get through the hot summer days here. But one good thing about the hot summer days is that they make for some pretty great music. For example, this classic Sly and the Family Stone tune, Hot Fun in the Summertime, and goodbye!
End of the spring, I
So we'll see you next Saturday, 9 until noon or thereabouts, for the brand new edition of Dave's Gone By. Gone By.